I'm not gonna. There we go. We're live, and I'm gonna
All right.
exit out. There's currently no one watching, which is okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be fair, we did start, but I'm just gonna actually just send a thing out on Instagram just so people know that we're live.
Go
Um,
for it.
view your videos. Um. All right, there we go. All right, share, copy link. All right, we're live. Okay. Hey, oh my god, and you put it on Bluesky. That's awesome.
Yeah, send out a quick tweet.
I retweeted that.
Post.
Okay. Oh my god,
Nice.
it's Henry Lewis. Okay. All right, we got one person watching. Okay. So,
All right.
welcome Kevin.
Happy to be here, Joe.
Kevin actually was the one who suggested we do this, and I'm very happy to be doing another video with you. I'm not happy to be doing it on this topic. Only because, for one, there's so many goddamn, and I had to omit a lot of these, but
yeah,
there's so many goddamn Marvel villains, and the fact is that I find it funny how half of these are over the course of like 1 decade, and then these only from like the last 5 years, which means like the MCU has essentially doubled its like how much content it's pumped out within the same amount, which is insane to me. So
we should probably like clarify for the one person watching right now, and then also just some other rules. Like, so yeah, we're gonna be going over the villains in the MCU movies and Disney Plus shows that we know are currently part of, you know, the Infinity Saga and the Multiverse Saga and all that. We are not doing. We are the only characters we're including from other franchises. So obviously no X-Men or anything. We're only including certain characters like the Raimi villains in No Way Home because they appeared directly in an MCU focused thing. But in this, so, which is why we don't have like Topher Grace's Venom, because he was not in No Way Home. And then obviously, as you can tell, same thing with the Netflix villains. Unless they show up, we're not including them here. So yeah, no Kilgrave, Cottonmouth, Bushmaster, Harold Meacham, any of those characters.
I don't know any of those characters because I haven't seen any of the Netflix shows.
Yeah, I'll give credit. The Netflix shows are mostly put out bangers, but every now and then there's a dud that holds the villain lineup back. But yeah,
I watched like the first 2.5 seasons of Daredevil, and I was like, this is good. I'll continue it someday, and I still have not finished Daredevil, even though season 4 is coming out.
I would at least finish Daredevil sometime. It doesn't have to be immediately, but I would at least try to get through season 3 because season 3 is fucking amazing.
I've heard people love, because the issue is I forgot everything that happened in season 2. I know that season 2 ends with Matt revealing his identity to Karen.
That is a part of it, yeah.
Yeah. And I know season 3 starts with Matt in like a coma, like he's in like an explosion, and but the reason I stopped watching it was because I was confused that Daredevil season 3 started out like that, and I was like, wait.
The reason that happened, it's because of the ending of Defenders.
Yeah, season 3 takes place after. It was like a Book of Boba Fett situation, and I was very confused. Which is funny because it's literally the same thing with Book of Boba, where it's 2 seasons. You have to watch the crossover show, and then you have to go back to season 3. And I was so confused because I was like, oh, okay, we're gonna come back to this. Like, we're gonna eventually come back as to why. And then we get to the scene with like he's imagining Kingpin, like Kingpin's not really there, and then he mentions that like Elektra and Kane died, and I was like, what? Not Kane, Stick, and I was like, whoa. I'm like, what is this? I was like, wait, Elektra died? I'm like, I never gave a shit about Elektra, but I was like,
right, yeah. If you just randomly heard that out of nowhere. It's
So
but
I texting my friend. I was like, "Hey Kyle," I was like, "What the fuck? What is going on?" He's like, "Oh yeah, you have to watch Defenders." And I was like, so I started like episode. I started like so I stopped season 3. I tried to watch Defenders, and I was like, I can't watch this because I'm still very confused. And then I asked him. I said, "Do I have to watch the other shows to understand this?" And he said, "No." But then he's like, I would probably watch Jessica Jones though, because that's good. So then I went to go watch Jessica Jones, and then I couldn't finish Jessica Jones. I was going backwards.
In defense of that, Jessica Jones season 1 is great. Seasons 2 and 3 are definitely
there
a
were
downgrade.
3 seasons of Jessica Jones.
Yes, yeah. Most people forget about the other 2 seasons because they're not as good as the first. Like they have their moments, but they don't hit the same really. So I don't blame.
Respect Kristen Ritter as an actress, honestly, but I legit I can't. Like, I don't want to watch them. I'm just sick of cinematic TV universes. Like, I got the Star Wars one, which, to be fair, I'm kind of digging it, and I'm happy it's ending soon, which is good. But, like, because, like, but you got, like, I remember the CW is kind of, like, what popularized it. And
yeah, that's a good point.
It got really tiring after a while because I stopped watching those in like 2018. I couldn't keep up with them because they were.
I stuck with Flash until the beginning of season 6 because after Crisis on Infinite Earths, I was like, this was the thing I've been waiting to see for years, and I'm like, oh, we're still going. Okay, I think I'm gonna opt out.
The issue with Crisis is that's essentially because I haven't watched it, but I know what it's about. That show that special is essentially about the death of the universe, and kind of like after you overcome something as big as that, every other threat those heroes encounter is not going to seem as dire or threatening. So it's like,
and
who's going to care after that?
And
so
the only way to match that is like personal. Really, the only way to match scale really with a follow up after something like that is to do it with like super deep personal character stuff, but even then,
the CW is not capable of that,
right? And even, like I only watched like the first 5 seasons of Flash, with a little bit of season 6 before Crisis, and then I was watching Black Lightning at the time. I never finished it, even though I really want to. And I have to say, Black Lightning was jarringly thrown in to Crisis. Like it was. I mean, it was kind of it was shocking in the moment watching it and like hearing Jeff be told like his world just got wiped out. Like I had to like pause and take off my headphones for that. But I didn't see the episode right beforehand that told me, oh, he's going to be here at all. So it was a little confusing. And then now he's just in this universe, and I'm like, okay, I have no idea how this is going to change. And then I just didn't end up finishing it.
Crisis a 5-part special?
Yeah, it was a 5-part like special between all the CW shows. What was
the one had to get omitted because it was Flash, Arrow, Legends, Batwoman, Supergirl, and Black Lightning.
Yeah, Black Lightning was like very thrown in. Like he was a side character that showed like up.
An episode of Black Lightning didn't contribute to that crossover.
He contributed to the crossover itself. He didn't have a full episode focused on him.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Okay. But that's just weird. Okay. But you know, I'm just sick of cinematic universes, so I couldn't get into it because it's like 10 seasons. And at least with the Star Wars shows, they're short. Like people complain, but like Book of Boba is only like 7 episodes and they're like 40 minutes each. Like all the Netflix episodes are like, it's like 13 episodes and it's like an hour.
Yeah, that's the only reason. That is the only reason I have not watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because I've heard that show is. I've heard Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when it gets good, it's fucking amazing. But the first season is like really slow for a lot of people, and the episodes are like 47 minutes each, and I'm just like, it's 8 seasons of it, and each season has like 20 episodes or something until like the final one where they just do 13, and I'm just like. I could barely make it through like some of the Netflix shows with consistently, and you want me to do that 8 more times for a show that starts slow? It's like I'm not saying it's bad, but I have other priorities. Is the point?
A YouTuber I really like. His name is Ross McIntyre. He's one of my favorite YouTubers. He reminds me a lot of like like Sheaf Talks or like Mavocate, but he's nice. He's actually
Mavocat's pretty chill. I've known Mavocate for a little bit, so he's chill. He just exaggerates himself a lot.
But Ross is a very sweet guy, but he said that like most like action adventure stories really work best when they're like 8 to 13 episodes. They don't work well with like 23 episode formats because it's just a lot of those stories are not capable, and
a lot of the time it also like the only way I can really see it working a lot more in that longer format is probably something that's more episodic, like an action adventure cartoon or something that doesn't have a ton of plot, at least at first. But even then, it's kind of an exception. And it really just depends on the story you want to tell and how long you want to tell it. And I think that was the problem with The Flash. That show got stretched too thin. Like it basically peaked in seasons 1 and 2 with some admitted bright spots in 3. And then onward, it was just kind of, I kept up for the characters because I loved the characters in that show. I loved that cast. And I liked a lot of moments with them, especially with Barry's adoptive dad, Jeff, right? In The Flash. I could.
But I think his name was Henry Allen. The actor was John Wesley Shipp.
Okay, yeah, but with The Flash, it just kind of got stretched too thin, and some of their choices for villains were a little odd. Like, I like that they tried to give a spotlight to other characters, like Captain Cold and Mirror Master and stuff.
I loved Wentworth Miller as Captain Cold.
He was great. But then season 5 was the Cicada, and it was kind of interesting. I didn't even know who that was. I'd at least heard of the Thinker when he was the season 4 villain, but
the Thinker was such a dog shit villain, dude, especially compared to the one when you go to the one from The Flash to the Suicide Squad, it's like night and day. And that guy wasn't even the main villain of his own movie, and he was amazing.
The whiplash between both characters is fucking insane and hilarious. It was so surreal watching that and having seen season 4.
I forgot the actor who plays Gaius Reeves in that movie, but he was the doctor. I think
wasn't it Peter Capaldi?
Yeah,
was that it? Okay.
The way he like enunciates his words is just so good. Like
he reminds me a lot of Richard E. Grant, kind of with that with the accent and everything.
The way like I remember the scene where they reveal that Project Starfish was brought by America, and he's like Yankee fucking Doodle Dandy. Like it's just he has such a, and Neil Sandilands as the Thinker, which is in the Flash show, just was not. I really don't like.
Yeah.
I really don't like not attacking. I don't like criticizing acting, especially in shows like the CW. But it could be that they were trying to compensate for the Thinker's intellect compared to his emotion, but it just did not translate well at all.
I thought he had some moments, but yeah, for me it was also just the design of the Thinker was weird. I got what they were going for with the chair and the transferring brains and stuff, but like. Could you not have tweaked him a little bit? Like
it would have looked fine if he was just walking around, and he had like the apparatus on his head. He looked so goofy in it. Like I don't know why they had to give him a chair. Like it looked like it didn't like it wasn't like necessary to the character. Aside from the character was in a wheelchair and he had paralysis, which wasn't
in that instance. Just give him a fucking like wheelchair with like tech and stuff. I say. Like it,
like a doctor. I don't know. This is supposed to be a video about the Marvel villains, and we're ranting about the fucking
correct. Like I said earlier, just no Netflix villains, no like other universe villains unless they've appeared in an Infinity Saga or Multiverse Saga project. Same with the Netflix stuff and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that. But yeah, I'm ready to get into this whenever you are. I'm sure this will be like I said on Blue Sky, I'm sure it'll be a clusterfuck.
All right. So I decided we're not doing like S tier to F tier. I decided to make them actually unique. So we got goated tier, which is basically S tier. We got really great.
Yeah.
We got good, which is like middle of the road. It's like B tier. You got mid, which is I would say C tier, wasted potential, and then awful bad dookie. But so these are in release order. So we got the first one from
Obadiah Stane,
and then we got the newest character death in Agatha. So,
yeah.
Obadiah Stane. By the way, we didn't with Andrew when we did our Star Wars video. We did it beforehand. I didn't meet with you beforehand because I think it would have been interesting to just see how we would have compared, like as we were doing this live.
Yeah,
so,
I kind of like that more, honestly. I want to see our opinions convert, which is why I think it's going to be a clusterfuck, because I expect we're going to have some very interesting opinions. But yeah, Obadiah Stane. I think he's okay. He's a perfectly serviceable villain. He's just not like insanely interesting to me, I'd say.
I never liked Obadiah Stane.
Like, I think Jeff Bridges is doing a good job, and I like the Ironmonger suit. I think the CGI looks really good.
Earlier Marvel movies actually still hold up fairly well, which is surprising.
And a lot of that was because they had sorry, I just have to read this text real quick. Okay, there we go. They had a lot of the Jon Favreau made it clear to the VFX artists and the production team when they were making the first 2 Iron Man movies, they didn't want to over rely on CGI, so they tried to use as much practical shit as possible, which is why the Iron Man CGI still holds up so well in those early movies versus films later on, where even if the CGI is good, it just doesn't feel as tangible or raw because the VFX artists are making everything from scratch, basically. So they don't have a real physical thing to draw upon, or they're replacing it with CGI body doubles like in Civil War and stuff when the practical sculpt looked good enough as is. So yeah. But yeah, Obadiah, from what I remember, he's okay. He's just kind of your standard like corporate bad guy. He obviously gets the quote of like Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave, and it is iconic in its own right, but it's just he's a perfectly serviceable villain. Not the best. Jeff Bridges is doing good. I'd say he's mid, personally.
No, yeah, I was gonna say, because I thought you were gonna go for good, but I even as a kid, I never liked him. I was never scared of him.
Right. For me, mid is basically the same as okay, and that can be either okay in a good way or okay in a bad way. When you say the word, it can be like, oh, that's okay, or oh, that's okay. Where for you can tell
like yeah. My issue with Stane is that he makes sense, I would say, for like the first 2/3 of the movie. Like it makes sense that he hates Tony Stark, because can you blame him?
Right.
I think and the issue though is that he just kind of, it's a meme at this point that Obadiah Stane really has no reason to be that bloodthirsty where he's like going around causing like mayhem, because it's like his motivations were that he wanted to kill Tony Stark and take over his company, but like that's all he wanted because he hated Tony. Yeah, and he was jealous of him. So it doesn't make sense as to why he's running around the city throwing cars full of children. Like it's a little, it's very inconsistent, and it's not set up that he's like crazy or anything. I mean, obviously he's emotionally unstable, but it doesn't seem like he's insane. So I don't know. I feel like if you're gonna be just I'm crazy and my morals are inconsistent, you need to set that up beforehand, and it just with Obadiah, it just didn't work for me.
Okay.
And the thing was, with most of these Iron Man villains, they are going to follow like the Iron Man movies, but
yeah,
most of them have the exact same issues.
Yeah. So real quick, actually, I know we literally just started. I actually have to go take care of something super quick. I'll just turn off my face cam, and then I'll be back in like 2 minutes. But then I promise we can get back to it. I just gotta dip out real quick.
And I am all alone, and there's no one here beside me. I like how What If expanded upon the lore of Stane's character by basically confirming that he sold out the Starks and had Howard and Maria killed. Wait, what? When was that? Was that in season 1 of What If? I don't remember that. Or am I going crazy? Was that in the Killmonger episode in season 1? Because I know he was in that. I didn't watch the rest of What If. So I may be, if that was in the later seasons of What If, I genuinely I don't know what you're talking about. No, season 3. Okay, okay. So I thought you were talking about season 1, so that makes sense that I wouldn't know what you're talking about. But I mean that's kind of cool, I guess. I guess it makes sense that he always kind of hated the Stark, so I'm not entirely against that idea. Like, let me move this for a second because I got the new. Oh,
there we go.
hey.
Yeah, hey. Sorry, I had to go. I had to go like drip some pipes because we're gonna get like cold weather for the next few nights. So gotta get back
Same here. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Okay. Next up is Abomination. This is. Here's the thing. A lot of these early MCU villains, I'm gonna have the same opinions on. I also don't like Abomination that much.
I think it's funny. I like Abomination in She-Hulk when they kind of like try to redeem him a tiny bit, but with the way She-Hulk gets executed in a few areas, I don't really like how
and then they ruin it at the end because it's revealed that he was secretly like running an anti-She-Hulk club.
Right. And here's my thing. In reevaluating it, I'd actually be okay if that was the twist of the show. Like Abomination was the final villain without even knowing it. But the problem is it doesn't feel right for what the show did with his character prior. And like on top of that, it just kind of feels it does raise the question of like, well, okay, even if he was, what would he want the Hulk blood for? And yeah, but just talking about Incredible Hulk, I think he's just wasted potential. I'd say he's a character that could work, but
the issue with that show is that literally no character has a resolution with the way that finale is formatted.
Right.
And I get it. That's how She-Hulk is in the comics. I understand that, but as a TV finale, it does not work.
I appreciated the whole meta joke of like trying to make fun of the other Disney finales having dog shit moments or just being garbage, but it doesn't work for me because it throws off what I thought they were going to do that I thought could be interesting for She-Hulk's character, and it comes off like we're self-aware, and it's like, okay, cool, but I wanted an ending.
Like, I like the part where they made a joke about the VFX artists being overworked. That was very funny.
Yeah, my honest reaction to that joke was the SpongeBob meme where his eyes are split looking at the book. Like, that's fucking hilarious. That's awful. That's
so I'm just gonna do you want to put Abomination in mid or wasted potential?
I'm gonna say wasted potential because the more I think about Abomination, I actually get kind of disappointed with how he ended up in parts of. I liked him at first in She-Hulk, but then the finale happened, which is most of She-Hulk.
I liked him in the 7th episode. I thought he was very wholesome, and then they ruined it.
Right. So it's just, and I appreciate them trying to give him the more comic accurate design, but it's like
the new design slaps. I love the new design. It's really cool.
Yeah, I like how they merged the older one while making it look like he mutated a bit with the fins and stuff. It's cool. I just wish it was in a slightly better thing, really.
Next up,
Ivan Vanko, Whiplash. Interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah. I'm just gonna
Interesting. I'd say missed potential because I at least remember him more than other villains, but I'm not against him being like the lesser of that tier either.
I genuinely detest this character.
Interesting.
I think it's just the fact that, for one, this again with the issue is that every Iron Man villain is the same. All of their motivations are I hate Tony Stark because he's an asshole and he ruined my life in the past, and I want to kill him now. And I want to take credit for his work. That is every single except for the third one, who is just I hate Tony Stark because he's an asshole. That's it.
Yeah, it's. So, I think it was disappointing. It's also disappointing.
Yeah.
Or sorry, no, you can finish.
No, that was I didn't. That was it. That was the end of my.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's also disappointing because I watched High Top Films video on Iron Man 2 talking about like the behind the scenes trouble of the movie. And Iron Man 2 is a movie that clearly has a point it wants to make about like legacy and the sins of the father and all this different stuff. And when you learn about the behind the scenes stuff, you can tell Jon Favreau and Mickey Rourke, the actor, they wanted to make him like an interesting character. And in theory, Whiplash should be like a perfect dark reflection of Tony Stark in a lot of ways. But the problem is that Marvel basically just wanted him to be a more generic Russian bad guy. So it's like they added in scenes and reshoots where Nick Fury is there to give exposition and be like, oh, what's that? This character we thought was wrongfully robbed by the Stark family and took credit for his family's inventions. Nope, turns out Vanko brought it on himself by being a dick and the bad person. And it's like, that's so much less interesting. It just
it's like God forbid a character have a sense of moral ambiguity. It's like
it just robs Whiplash of a lot of what could make him so powerful as a villain, and just kind of speaks to I like Iron Man 2 from what I remember, but it's easy to see why many consider it like one of the weaker sequels or a very uneven
I really hate it. Elon Musk is in it.
Oh God, I forgot about that. I
remember watching that back. Like I watched it for the first time in 2023, and I got fucking jump scared because I was like, oh shit! I'm like, Elon Musk is in Iron Man 2. So Elon Musk canonically exists, and for all we know, he is still out there somewhere.
It's like that. It's your reaction to seeing Elon Musk again in Iron Man 2 was like the Scott the Woz clip with Slenderman. Holy shit, it's a white guy. It's like, holy shit, an apartheid guy. Oh gosh.
Also, I forgot there's a second villain in Iron Man 2.
Justin Hammer's okay. I think he's fine. Sam Rockwell's having fun. He's
I'd say he's better than Obadiah Stane. He's slightly more entertaining, I would say. He's
definitely the most charismatic of the Iron Man villains, 100%.
The only scene I remember with him is that one where they're watching clips of Justin Hammer like failing to replicate Iron Man suits, and there's that really awful scene of the guy in that mech, and it like twists around.
Yeah, that's
like 90 degrees, which really like freaked me out when I watched it. And that was only like I wasn't like young too. Like I watched that like a couple years ago, and I can only imagine watching that as a kid because like that's some intense body horror, and they play it off as like a joke. And Justin Hammer is like, I'd like to clarify that guy lived, and I was like, okay, that's kind of even more traumatizing to think about because I would much rather that dude die, like than have to live with that. Like that's that legit. Like that's honestly one of the most horrifying things in the MCU.
I've even heard the MCU theory. I've actually heard this like fucked up theory where in Doctor Strange, during the fucking when he's driving his car and he hears about like these cases he could take, and the person on the phone mentions like, I've got a former military veteran's spine completely fucked up in an accident, and he's like, oh yeah, that does sound interesting, but so could 50 other doctors when it comes to handling that. Give me something else worth my time. If that's what that is, if that's one of those retcons, like Peter Parker being in Iron Man 2 as the kid with the Iron Man mask, it's like, Jesus, he's still out there,
man or woman, we don't know. Like, I feel bad, man.
We got to move on. This is getting horrifying. But yeah, Loki. Justin Hammer's fine. Justin Hammer's fine in Iron Man 2. His What If episode is ass. It's kind of fun as a Christmas episode, but he was in a Christmas episode. I've seen it. It's got effort, but it's dumb. So,
is it that Happy Hogan one?
Yeah, it's the flimsiest. It is the flimsiest justification for a what if story I've ever seen. Like, forget interesting stories like what if Gore killed all the gods, or what if Talokan and Wakanda fought in World War II. No, we have what if Justin Hammer decided to be a little naughtier this year. That's the actual like in-universe shit that the Watcher says, and I'm just like, why? What is the what if? I don't get it. Anyway, Loki. Finally.
I don't know if this is a hot take, but I was like never a huge Loki fan. I like Loki, but I never was like head over heels for him. I actually like the 2012 variant of Loki more than the mainline Loki. I'm genuinely, I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but that's just how I feel. I think that variant Loki is better than our main Loki. Like, is that a hot take? Is that a hot take? Do people?
I mean, Loki generally is one of the few Disney Plus like shows that everyone says is good, but it's also gotten criticism because for a lot of people, it felt a little too jarring with his turn to go from that 2011 evil version to this newer one.
I still disagree with that. I still very much stand by that. That was a very like organic. I still really like that scene of him watching his life and seeing everything unfold. I think that that's still one of my favorite scenes in the MCU period. Just Tom Hiddleston just watching his life fall apart was just so good, and him realizing that he doesn't enjoy killing people. And people say that was jarring, but I like, because it's more like, it's not him admitting to Mobius that he doesn't like killing people. It's him essentially admitting to himself, like him saying, oh, right, I don't like this. And it's almost like kind of, he's the god of mischief, and it's what people want him to be almost. So if it's like, if you guys want a monster, I'll give you a monster, because Mobius was the scene of him with the eyeball and being like,
I have to rewatch
that.
I have to rewatch season 1 and reevaluate it in context of season 2, because I've made it clear season 1 kind of disappointed me and annoyed me when it first came out, but I genuinely loved season 2. Like, I saw a GIF of it on Twitter like a few months back of just Sylvie in the Record Store. I probably mentioned this. I saw a GIF of Sylvie in the Record Store on Twitter randomly one day, and I was like, oh my god, I miss this show. Which 2021 me would never have.
Dude.
But yeah, Loki is a villain. I think Loki's good. I don't love him as much as everybody else, but I think he's either like between good or really great, at least off his Avengers appearance, which does a lot of the heavy lifting for his villain side, I'd say.
I'm not going to put him in goated, but I would put him in like really great, which is like A tier.
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to like Tom Hiddleston's charisma and knowing where he ends up, I'd say, in the MCU.
I was just never a fan of Loki's redemption, because in Ragnarok, it's essentially Loki keeps tricking Thor, and he gets zapped when Thor leaves, and then he just comes back at the end to help, which wasn't set up at all. And then they never bring up the fact that he was going to betray Thor again. Like, that was it. And it felt like a lot of people, I feel like that is something that just never aged well with Ragnarok first. Like, I don't know why, but people just never talk about that. And then he immediately dies in Infinity War. And one of my least favorite cliches in like any story is, the way to redeem a character is have them do one good thing, and then you rob them of any responsibility by just killing them to make you feel bad. It's so overused.
I don't know if I'd call that what they did with him, but I do understand your point. Yeah, I disagree. I mean,
he does do some good things, but like
he does help like bring the ship to get Asgardians evacuated in Ragnarok. So it's not like there's nothing there. But
it's like 5 minutes ago he was like, he wanted to stay in Sakaar. So it's like, why did he want to come back to help? Like, why didn't he just leave with the other Sakarans? Like, we never got like a scene of him being like, I'm gonna go back and help Thor. He just kind of decides to off screen. Like, I don't know. It's weird. Loki's just a weird guy.
But yeah, I'm okay with putting him in good or really great. I enjoy Loki. As a villain in Thor, he's like all right, but for Avengers and where he's ended up, I think, especially with Tom Hiddleston's charisma, like I think he's landed his flowers and really great.
Loki looks so weird in the first Thor movie because he doesn't have long hair. I'm so
right. Yeah, it's like him with the pulled back hair is so off-putting and off.
It's really weird looking. But next up is Red Skull, and this one's
I think weird. Red Skull is in this weird gray area where he's like one of the better Phase 1 villains, but he's nowhere near the full potential that clearly the comics have explored with him. I haven't read like a ton of Captain America comics with Red Skull, but from everything I've gathered, he is like Captain America's arch villain for a reason. And in the movie, the general consensus seems to be the makeup's cool, but he's not as good as he could be.
Hugo
I
Weaving
think
does a good job with like the performance and like the physical.
yeah,
But I think
he's
just
mid. He's just kind of there.
I
He's
don't know.
easily the
Like I
he's
still
easily
like.
the weakest villain in the Cap trilogy for
I'll put.
sure.
I'm gonna put him above Justin Hammer. Like I
Well,
liked seeing him show up in Infinity War. I thought he was cool in
yeah,
Infinity
that was
War,
fucking cool. I loved seeing that.
which is weird because it's like I'm excited for a cameo that is a character I'm not even that fond of. Like it's weird. It's a very weird feeling.
Right. I will say I just realized I said he's the weakest villain of the Captain America trilogy, and then my brain clicked and I'm like, okay, he's the weakest Captain America movie villain so far in the MCU because we have yet to see what the hell Brave New World's about to do in the month, which anyway,
they
okay,
could fumble it. I'm very excited to see Red Hulk. I have no faith in it though. And also there's still like 3 other villains in that movie. I think there's
right. The leader is in it as a villain, and I get what they're going for. I guess I'm curious about Giancarlo Esposito being, of all fucking characters, Sidewinder, leader of the Serpent
Sidewinder,
Society.
if Sidewinder dies after like 10 minutes of screen time, I will actually just straight up just give the movie like a 3 out of 10, and then I'll just move on with my life.
Yeah, because it's one thing to cast Giancarlo in a weird role. I mean, he clearly enjoyed doing it when he went out at Comic-Con. But
he looked so happy. He was treating it like it was like a wrestling event. Like he was so excited.
And from what I've gathered, the Serpent Society's whole shtick is they're just a bunch of villains in the comics who are like, hey, we all have snake powers. Why don't we like hang out with each other? And like in one of the panels I've seen, their secret base is literally just Sidewinder's apartment, and he's just vibing in that crazy ass frilled costume on his couch. It's like, that's interesting. I want to see how the hell they could translate some of the. Obviously, they'll take a more militant, serious approach with it. But I'm curious.
So wait, can Sidewinder like be a snake? What are his powers?
I think he can teleport, which at first I was like, that's a very odd power to give a snake villain. But then I think about it like, well, wait a minute, because Sidewinders are a real snake. They're a species that lives in deserts in North America, and I think there's a subspecies in Africa, and they get their name from the weird way they move, where it looks like they do the slithering forward motion, but they like almost pick themselves up off the ground and move to the side, creating these weird patterns in the. So I think that's the idea. Like he can teleport to the side and mess
it's really
around.
Funny because Giancarlo, like when you look at what Sidewinder looks like in the comics, and then you look at Giancarlo's costume, it's like he looks like the most generic action movie villain you've ever seen.
Yeah,
just like tactical vest and a trench coat.
He was so unrecognizable. People thought he was like this completely other character, more associated with Gwen Stacy. Like that's how little he looks like the comic design.
Yeah, I don't know. I really hope they don't waste him. I hope he's in it a good amount. But
I want the Serpent Society to do good in the MCU as villains. I hope that I want them to have like an actual interesting motivation. That's my other thing. Like, what's the deal here?
Every single villain Giancarlo has played gets wasted at some point. Aside from like Gus Fring, it's like Stan Edgar got written out of The Boys. Moff Gideon got underused.
Yeah.
He was in Abigail, which was actually a very good movie where it was like about vampires. It was like a vampire horror movie.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
He was excellent in it, but he was severely underused, and he was written out of the story very fast. So it's like, I swear to God, if Sidewinder is in it for less than like 10 minutes, I'm going to be very annoyed.
Yeah.
But I maybe not. Maybe they'll handle it well, like they did in with like 3 villains and Guardians 2, but I'm getting ahead of myself.
But yeah, okay, so next up we have Aldrich Killian. Okay. So Killian isn't.
Is this a hot take that I'm going to say he's the best Iron Man antagonist?
Maybe. I don't know what the general. Most people. Here's the thing, right? With Killian, regardless of like his merits as a villain, if he has any, the problem with Killian is that he's always going to be defined by the Mandarin twist. Like that's always going to be a shadow over assessment of his character for a lot of people. And now to Iron Man 3's credit, it was either Shane Black or one of the writers they said their reasoning behind this decision was, when you look into definitions about like the Mandarin in Chinese culture, the Mandarin, it's typically a person of great power within like an inner circle or a secondhand man. And their justification for it was, well, when you think about the name Mandarin, he's not the king, he's the king advisor whispering in his ear. And that's what they wanted with Aldrin. And I think there is something interesting to the theme of Iron Man 3, where he creates this boogeyman with the Mandarin to like basically personify like US fears of the Middle East and 9/11, like post 9/11 stuff, which is interesting. But I get why comic fans were disappointed, because when they were playing it straight, or seemed to be playing it straight with Ben Kingsley, it was intimidating and interesting, and people really dug it. So to pull that out from under the rug and put in this other guy who's another Tony Stark's an asshole and I want to kill him dude, it feels a little... To be fair, though, Killian's at least like a little more insane. With Obadiah, it was take a company. With Ivo, it was just simple revenge. With Killian, it's like, I'm going to capture the president in a red, white, and blue Iron Man suit and film like myself killing him in front of the world just because I want to be remembered for something. Like, the dude just wanted recognition and to feel like someone, which is I kind of respect that on a sick level when I think of like, especially because, you know, people have wanted Disney, like classic petty bitchy Disney villains to come back in animation, and people have wanted more goofy comic book villains. So I kind of respect that to a degree, but it's like, I don't know. I'm going to say he's mid. I'll say mid just because I can't really form an opinion on him, and mid's like the default, I'd say.
I'm going to put him below Red Skull, but above all the other Iron Man villains.
I think that's completely fair. To his credit, I at least remember his fire powers. I thought the effect on that was really cool. I like the way they had that weird extremis shit going through him.
Was cool. I like that.
Really the biggest crime with him is that the movie wastes AIM, because in the comics, Advanced Idea Mechanics is like a mad scientist group led by MODOK and Madame Mask and shit. And it's like, or maybe not Madame Mask, but like someone else. And they're
MODOK
fun.
In the MCU, I can't wait to see how they handle that.
Huh. But in the movie, it's just a think tank like front for Killian's stuff to look legal and professional while he carries out this terrorist stuff, and it's like, that feels like a waste. But yeah, he's mid. He's a decent threat, and I thought what they were going for was interesting with him, but I don't think he quite stands out enough with his writing or like acting. I think of the main like actors, he's like, I remember him more than Obadiah, but he's way less charismatic than Sam Rockwell. So
he's less charismatic than Sam Rockwell, but I think his character overall is way more enjoyable. I would say. I don't know if that makes sense.
Fair, yeah, fair enough.
I think the writing is better, but the acting is worse. I would say, if
that's a good way to look at it. Yeah. I know Nando V Movies would be pissed at that statement. Justin Hammer is his like favorite MCU character ever. But anyway, Malekith, the accursed dark elf, whatever. There's a reason
moving on to Alexander Pierce.
Alexander Pierce. I'd say Pierce is good. He's not mind blowing, but he's good. He works for what they're going for. He's intimidating in a lot of things. What his
motivations were?
Pierce is,
aside from he's a Nazi,
right? So he's with Hydra. From what we've gathered, you know, he tries to justify a lot of his actions, thinking about he sees Project Insight as a way of, okay, we can bring about peace by just killing a bunch of people that are a threat to us in one fell swoop, and tries to manipulate other senators, saying like, what if like people took your wives and daughters of your country and imprisoned them, or what if someone set off in like a crazy thing? And he tries to basically, he either does have some weird fucked up sense of security and what it means to be secure and that versus freedom, or he's just saying these things to manipulate people and just fulfill some greater Hydra agenda. But I kind of like that we don't fully know, because it kind of keeps us guessing, like, does he actually believe the shit he's spewing, or is he just spouting it to make it look like, oh, he's actually having a point, even though at the end of the day he's just a secret like Nazi death cult member, really. And Robert Redford does a great job.
Yeah,
in the role,
and it was nice seeing him in Avengers Endgame. I like it when they kept those. I like it when they kind of make connections even earlier in the timeline to kind of be like, these characters were always here.
Yeah,
I like little tidbits like that. That's cool to me. So I mainly liked him just because it was cool seeing him in Endgame. But
yeah, and he worked perfectly well for what was required of the Winter Soldier, even though he's not the best part of it. So yeah, I'd say he
also
was good.
I didn't put like Bucky on this list because I feel like Bucky doesn't really count.
Yeah, Bucky was brainwashed, and it's a whole thing. I agree. I think Bucky. Yeah. Okay, here's where things get interesting. So we have Ronan the Accuser. A lot of people tend to call Ronan dog shit. I disagree. He is
Ronan.
Yeah, he's absolutely the weakest main Guardian villain. Make no mistake.
Oh no, yeah, easy.
But I think he's just good enough because what he lacks in like a complex backstory, he makes up for in just presence. Like the dude is a lot. I know there's the whole line from Thanos of he has like the demeanor of a pouty child and his politics bore him, and that's justified for sure. But I think Ronan was a little more threatening than people give him credit for, and I think Lee Pace did a good job, like going big and extra for the role.
And I also just feel like he was meant to be a parody of Marvel villains at that point because it's like his first.
That's a good point, actually.
His first, like I rewatched that. Whenever I rewatch Guardians 1, I try to look back at his introductory scene, and the first thing he does is just exposit his backstory.
Right, and it's just straight to the point, and he just gets it out like, "But I do not forgive your people for taking the life of my father." And his father. And his father.
It feels like a parody, and it's
right.
Like,
yeah,
but it works. It works for me,
right?
Because he just contrasts so well with the very goofy main characters,
right? And they're just straight to the point with it. No nonsense. This guy is a genocidal zealot, and they commit to him just being a piece of shit, which I appreciate. Honestly, the only thing I don't like about Ronan, I just wish he was fucking green. I just wish he had his comic design with the green colors and stuff, because I know he's not on the Star Force or whatever.
Have, like a green tint to the costume.
Even just adding like green lighting to his ship, I think would have made it a little more visually interesting or something. I know that was a cliche, like the Matrix subway lighting in action movies, but if you get like a foresty or swampy green or blue going, maybe it could have helped. I don't know. I was disappointed. I was so disappointed. Oh yeah.
I just think that's funny. Like,
have you seen the bloopers where like Quill is like, "Dance off, bro, me and you," and Lee Pace is like, "It is on," and then he like starts dancing with the hammer.
I haven't seen that. That's really funny. Okay.
Look it up. It's so funny.
I'm gonna look that up later. That sounds really cute. That reminds me of the scene in Revenge of the Sith where it's the blooper in Revenge of the Sith where Anakin and Obi-Wan are gonna take on Dooku in the beginning, and Hayden Christensen trips by accident, and Ewan McGregor just faces Sir Christopher Lee, and he's like, "I'll take you on myself." Like, it was just, I just like it when actors commit to it.
Yeah, that's what happened with
even after the director says cut, they just fully commit to the bit.
That's what happens kind of with the remember in the movie when Star-Lord like presents the stone to the Collector and he drops it? That was a blooper on set, but it was so in character they kept it in the movie.
I didn't know that.
it's so good. I find
really funny.
I have to say though as well, I feel kind of bad for Ronan because James Gunn has actually come out and saying like of everything with the first Guardians movie, Ronan was his least favorite part to work on. He felt like he did not like writing Ronan or doing shit with him. And I completely understand. And I totally get why people don't like Ronan and think he's not a good villain. But honestly, I disagree. I think he works perfectly fine for what the plot requires. And the race against Clock. And honestly, him being so generic and genocidal, I think kind of makes him scarier because he's a little more like one-track mind out to destroy stuff. And when he has the Power Stone, it is kind of like when you're because I was a kid when I saw Guardians. I was 12. So being in the theater, and I didn't know about like the wider MCU stuff at the time. That was basically the first time I watched an MCU movie and wanted to know more about this universe. So when he like started raising the hammer, little kid me is like, wait, fuck, what's about to happen here? Because I didn't know of a sequel.
Even as a kid, I was kind of scared of Ronan, even though he wasn't.
Yeah, he wasn't like terrifying, but he was a decent force to be reckoned with, and I think he's a lot better than people give him credit for. I was just disappointed. I was so disappointed when they brought him back in Captain Marvel, and they didn't do jack shit with him. Like
he was horrible in Captain Marvel.
And even when they'd shown you information about him, it's like, what do we learn about him? Oh, he's one of the Kree bombers that's okay with genocide. That's kind of an interesting precursor, I guess, to explain his mindset. But we knew that
we already knew he was a genocidal Kree.
Exactly. So him
it's like
being
that clip. It's like that clip with Cosmonaut from the Spider-Man video, which is already something we fucking knew.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Ronan likes to kill and destroy like lives on planet Earth. It's like, yeah,
the movie,
right? But yeah, I'm gonna say Ronan's mid or good. Personally,
I'm gonna put him at the end of good.
I think that's completely fair. Yeah, just on the cusp of good enough for us, but still close to mid. I think that's perfectly reasonable. Okay, Ultron. I know Ultron's a mixed bag for a lot of people. I actually love Ultron. I love Age of Ultron. No. Oh dear, here we go. Okay, well now we can compromise.
I really don't like Ultron.
Dear. Oh dear.
Ultron really irritates me. I'm so because I didn't know that you loved Ultron.
Oh, I have a lot of fun memories with James Spader's Ultron. I get why people say he's missed potential and this and that, but I think he works a lot better than with what they're going for.
I was ready to put him in wasted potential.
Interesting.
Because my main issue with Ultron comes down to the character design and the writing with him.
The jack-o'-lantern face is scarier. I agree. Like, I love the CGI, but the jack-o'-lantern face for Ultron is a scarier aesthetic choice.
I just think the drones honestly looked cooler than he did. His minions look cooler than the actual main villain.
There's some
I would have just been fine if those were the template Ultron design.
There's some concept art where he has the more like comic looking face, and it's honestly I find Ultron scarier when he has the jack-o'-lantern face and like those Ant-Man antennae from the comics instead of like the spikes. The spikes on the head look cool, but I honestly prefer like the weird antenna. It gives this odd feeling to it. And of course in the comics it's Hank Pym who makes him, so he's like a dark reflection of Ant-Man and that stuff.
Cool.
I
just don't like the way he has like human mannerisms. He had like with Vision it made sense because one, he's played by a physical person, it's not motion capture,
right?
And also Vision's meant to be like
Jarvis.
He's more human and he's a good guy, so
it's pretty much confirmed Jarvis was a human in the MCU that got turned into like he was either an AI was modeled off of him, or he somehow like made it. Tony had a copy based on him.
I assumed it was just a former, like it was meant to just be a tribute. But
yeah,
I just hate how like he for one, like why does he blink? He's a robot.
That is a very interesting. Yeah, that is an odd choice now that I think about it.
It's like why weird that Ultron has eyelids, because the whole purpose of blinking is so we like re-moisturize our eyes, so our eyes don't dry. Why does the robot need eyelids?
Does he oil his eyes? Like what?
This is a really petty thing to complain about.
I know, but
have eyelids, Disney.
No, but yeah, that makes sense for me for a character. I'm a character designer and a character animator, so it's like, yeah, that is an odd thing to include. It's not like it's not like the eyes are. It's not like the eyes are digital and they like. There's like pixelated colors pretending to blink like you would see like with
that would be funny. I would actually, because with in Star Wars the Hu Yang blinks kind of like, but for him it's meant to be more like a form of expression, because for one, Hu Yang works with children, so it would make sense that they would model an architect droid to seem inviting and friendly. So like that I understand, but Ultron's a killing machine. I don't know why he would model himself to have eyes.
It's definitely a really odd choice in retrospect that I didn't even think about. It's a minor thing, of course, for his character, but no, that's a good point. Like, why does the robot have to blink? He's not like he's not an emotive cartoon character like Gur from Invader Zim, where he's meant to be cute. No, Ultron's like a problem. So
and he doesn't look intimidating. I feel like the Terminator, for example, I feel like the reason that is such an imposing like design is because he doesn't move and he doesn't emote. I feel like with Ultron, he's too emotive and he's too expressive, which doesn't make him as threatening to me.
Yeah, I do like the body movement, like animations and stuff. It looks great. It's just that, yeah, when you think about the fear factor element, a lot of that is lost when he's more emotive. And I'm okay with Ultron being snarky. I didn't have a problem with his jokes like some people did.
I hate all of them. I hate every single one. I don't think a single joke made me laugh. I hate the omelet joke is awful.
Like Tony Stark's response is a vocal stim of mine. I cannot tell you how many times, like almost on a daily basis, where I'm talking with somebody and it's like, he beat me by 1 second, or I respond that exact same way.
I think the evil plan joke, I think that one could have worked just if it was read differently. I feel like Ultron would have just worked better if he was far more dry, and that goes back to the lack of expression. Like, I think it would have been cooler if, this is my TED Talk now, where if Ultron just had that like drone design that I was talking about, where he just doesn't emote and it's just the face. And that scene where Andy Serkis is like, "Oh, you're one of Tony Stark's," and it's kind of like he just looks at him, and it just very dryly he says, "Do I look like Iron Man to you?" Like, I think that would have been so much more horrifying if he just looked at him and he just said it like very like, "Do I look like Iron Man to you?" And he just chopped the arm off. But like with Ultron, he almost like throws a tantrum, and it just isn't. It just, I was never, even as a kid, I was never scared of him. I was like, he's like basically whining. Like, I don't know.
I think another part of it as well is that in the movie, it feels like they're trying to have Ultron be like quote unquote, like fucked up Tony Stark, like kind of copying his mannerisms and this and that. And I think the problem with that is we've already had 3 Iron Man movie villains that are meant to be a dark reflection of Stark. And for a lot of people, they just didn't work. So it kind of feels.
Like, I remember a lot of people get mad at me when I said that, where I'm like, I don't like that Ultron makes jokes and he's quippy. And they're like, but he's meant to, because he was built by Tony Stark, so it would make sense that he's quippy. And I'm like, I'm like, I don't care if it makes sense. I don't like the decision, period, because it just doesn't fit the tone for me. Like,
yeah, even if it makes sense, there is like a fear factor. Like, because if Ultron's meant to be intimidating, there's a fear factor lost by giving him.
Jarvis was made by Tony Stark, and Jarvis doesn't quip like Ultron does. Like, granted, Jarvis makes jokes sometimes, but he isn't like a quip machine.
Right.
Like,
so
I don't understand that criticism. Like, people, like, I guess Ultron is more advanced, but then you go to Vision, who I would argue is the most advanced robot in the MCU, and he doesn't joke nearly as much as Ultron does.
Yeah, like, and even when he does, the humor is a bit more. It fits. It makes sense in character because it fits Jarvis's delivery, and you can see Vision is like kind of trying to learn or like acclimate a bit to his scenarios with the Avengers and be friendly. Like the joke.
What makes Vision funny is that he's socially awkward. It's not that he's quipping.
Right. It's why I love his jokes in Civil War, because there you can tell he's still new to all this. I
like him in Civil War.
I still think often about the joke of when he like phases into Wanda's room and it's like, Viz, we talked about this. Yes, but the door was open, so I assume that.
I like that the way he says it to Wanda when she's about to head out, and he's been like told to keep an eye on her, and he's like, perhaps we should order a pizza. Like, it's almost meant to act like sinister, but he's trying to be comforting because he's not trying to be like, he doesn't want to hurt. Like, obviously he doesn't want to scare Wanda. So like, I like that kind of humor because it's just meant to play up to Vision as just he's socially inept.
Yeah,
so I like that more than just quipping. I don't know.
Fair enough. Yeah, I still love what they did with Ultron. I do, even if I'm not a big fan of some of like the design decisions, I do give props to the VFX team, of course, because Ultron was definitely like a messy production to get through. And like they had like 13,000 shots for like I think it was like 13 different VFX companies doing like over 2,000 VFX shots, which is just like Jesus. Yeah, that's when like the VFX problems I think really started to pop up for Marvel. We just didn't know it as much at the time before like the Black Panthers.
We know things get so much worse.
Yeah, but yeah, I still like what they did with him. I have to say, a lot of people get like mad at Ultron, like well, if he's such an insanely hyper intelligent AI, why doesn't he just launch nukes and kill humanity? first off, they make it very
people
clear.
Actually make that criticism?
They were upset that Ultron, like they want, because Ultron's big plan is a meteor to like eliminate humanity. Yeah. Why didn't he just launch all the nukes? First off,
didn't
nukes
they explain that in the movie though?
Yeah, they not only explain it to say like, I think they said like Tony Stark has like safeguards in place or like or some kind of thing along that's like scrambling codes or something that keeps him from accessing any nuclear shit. But on top of that,
I thought like Jarvis's last directive was to like scramble the nuke codes or something before.
There was some.
I know they explained it. I just don't know how. So like
exactly, I know they explained it in the movie. I just can't remember the exact quote. But even if that's not the case, people act like, oh, just launch all the nukes, guys. Nukes don't just blink us off the face of the earth in an instant, mind you. Like, don't get me wrong, nukes are awful and horrific. But the big nuke that we all think of is the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's 2 cities. Even if nuclear fallout is devastating and awful, it's not going to kill the planet in one swoop. A 6-mile wide meteor crashing into the Earth, that's going to be a lot more effective than like nuclear fallouts in only a few specific places around the world, at least to me. Don't get me wrong, I get the mindset, but there is an in-universe explanation as to why, and it's not as like it's not quite what people think it is. To me, but yeah. So how about we compromise a little? So
if we don't agree, we have to meet in the middle.
Yeah. So I think
where would you have put him?
I would have put Ultron in either good or the bottom of really great. But you would put him at wasted potential.
So if you said bottom of really great, why don't we compensate for bottom of good or like the top of mid?
Okay.
I'll be. You know what? I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna give it to you. We're gonna do bottom of good.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. Okay. So by the way, I just wanted to preface this. I actually forgot making this when I was making this tier list that Yellow Jacket and MODOK were 2 different characters.
Oh. So for the sake, we can judge them. We can judge them differently. I can say that.
For the sake of this list, MODOK and Yellow Jacket are essentially 2 different characters.
Okay, and this is where I have one of my hot takes that I know the MCU fandom does not agree with. I think Yellow Jacket is really good. I actually really like Yellow Jacket and Ant-Man. I think he's way scarier when he's in the Yellow Jacket suit than people give him credit for. And the actor who plays, I don't remember his name, but the actor... Corey Stoll. I think he does a really good job portraying this clearly bitter, like, see, I'm on top of the world, Hank. I finally stuck it to you for most of the movie. And I understand why to a lot of people he feels like just, a mere, like, oh, the main character's powers, but evil. I get why that's tiring for a lot of people. And because it is the same thing with like Ironmonger and a lot of other characters. But I think there's still clearly a lot of effort put in by his vocal delivery. And I think he's like, again, in the climax, for me at least, he was genuinely intimidating in the Yellow Jacket suit. I think as a kid, I was way more scared of him than Ronan or Ultron because he was like specifically out for blood. And because at that point, mind you, he lost everything. Like his company had just literally gotten sucked into a fucking quantum fart or whatever, and everything was ruined. So he just and they say throughout the movie, he's like, there's something going on. Like he's maybe experimented with the chemicals of the Yellow Jacket suit and it's altered his brain. I wish we saw that more.
Also, I don't get that because wouldn't that make like Hank Pym evil? Because
that is the interesting trade-off. Yeah, because in the comics, Hank Pym loses his mind and becomes Yellow Jacket. But here they turned it into a separate character. And it's a whole thing. But yeah, that's my hot take. I think the
Yellow Jacket suit looks really good. I think it's a really well-designed suit. It doesn't delve too much into over-designed. Like,
I think and what's crazy is I think it's all CGI. Like there's
no. I remember they were originally going to make it practical, and they just went fully into making it.
Yeah.
So my thing is, I'm not a huge Yellow Jacket fan.
I expect that, honestly. Most of the MCU.
I really, honestly, if you weren't here, I would have honestly put him like right above Whiplash.
Damn. All right.
Darren Cross just.
How about we compromise
he may be the most like overly cartoony Marvel. Which is funny because Miss Minutes is a thing, but
yeah.
But so what would you have put him in?
Well, so I would have put him at like I would have put him in good. And you would have put him in awful bad dookie. So
I feel like we could just put him in mid if you want.
Yeah, I think mid's a good compromise.
I'll put him. So good.
My gut reaction was to go really great. I'm gonna be honest. I really like this character, so my gut reaction.
Really? Okay, so let's just put him in mid.
Yeah. So that's enough of a compromise, I'd say. Okay, Crossbones. I think Crossbones is perfectly fine. He's not amazing, but he gets the job done. He fills his purpose in Winter Soldier and Civil War. He has setup. Yeah, I love the tactical. This is one of the cases where I think like the militarization of an MCU design works amazingly. Like I love the mask. I love the presentation of it all. And I mean, you know me, I love Civil War. So I remember a lot of his quotes more in that movie. I love the hand-to-hand combat with him and Cap in that. And I like that he's one of the only MCU villains that feels like he's actually foreshadowed properly. Like, because he's in Winter Soldier
really well. I like that.
And I especially love like how, you know, the building collapses on him, but he survives and his skin's all just fucked up and burned. And
I love that line in Civil War. Last time you met, you threw down a building on my face. I've been waiting for this.
I love that shit so much. I love because he starts the fight like he misdirects Cap with a bomb, launching it on a shield. Cap tosses it and explodes. He punches him in the back through a mark, and he's like, "There you are, you son of a bitch!" And he's like, "I've been waiting for this." And then
I love him. I love that scene so much.
That's one of my favorite. Scene. That's one of my favorite like vocal sims from an MCU villain. That line of "This is for dropping a building on my face," and then like pulls out the blade. That shit's burned in my brain. I love it so much.
I just like the actor who plays Mark Ruffalo.
Frank Grillo's really good. He's so good,
and he's talented.
He's also on Creature Commandos as Rick Flag Sr., and he's great in that as well. Yeah, he's really good. And I think he's going to be in the live action DCU stuff because they've said they want to like have the actors jump back and forth between playing themselves in animation and live action. And I think he's going to be in Peacemaker season 2.
So wait, Rick Flag Sr. is Rick Flag's dad?
Yes.
That's cool. Okay. So if he's essentially just a replacement for Rick Flag, I'm totally cool with that. I like Rick. I like that because I could see him doing that really well.
Yeah, and I won't say how he's used in Creature Commandos. I'll admit I don't think it's perfect, but there is a dynamic they do with him and a character in Creature Commandos that's very entertaining. So I can't wait to see how he like butts heads with Peacemaker, especially given the Peacemaker, you know, with Flag and the Suicide Squad. So I think there's a lot of potential there. But yeah, I like Crossbones. He good. He's not like groundbreaking, doesn't need to be. He's just good.
I just like it when the reason I like him so much is just because I enjoy it when a superhero movie the prologue is like where it's like we need basically to see the heroes doing something. It's like I hate it when nowadays it's just very generic, like robbers or like a bridge is collapsing. Like
I want more super villains. This is why I'm kind of interested with Brave New World because the Serpent Society is like. Yeah, they're kind of just a bunch of snake-themed villains that are vaguely similar.
Oh, that's going to piss me off if they're just the opening, because then Giancarlo's going to be in it.
It looks like there's two, because I've seen the footage. It looks like there's two action sequences where they could show up. There's one where Sam, in full Cap gear, storms like this facility. But then there's another where he's just like in casual wear in his car. Then like a car gets blown up, and Giancarlo like starts going after him with a machine gun. So it looks like there might be two scenes with him at least.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna hold out hope that they use him more than one scene. Okay, but
rounding out the Captain America villains as well. Zemo, goated.
Zemo, we're not even arguing. Zemo's
goated. I love him in Civil War. I love him in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think it's definitely a departure from the comics, obviously, because in the comics he's a very spiteful Hydra scientist. And in this movie, he doesn't give a fuck about Hydra. He hates them just as much as everyone else. But the angle of making him this broken man, that adaptation is so different from the comics, but it works so well, especially with Daniel Bruhl's performance. Like, he elevates this character so much.
Wait, I want to find something. Wait, I'm gonna keep it rolling.
Yeah. If we're
because... all right, I got him. So
I got something too.
wait, who is? Wait, I want to see. Oh, Funko Zemo.
I got the fucking Funko.
My Zemo figure is actually the first proper custom I've ever made of a.
Nice.
I would say the first Lego custom I made where it was a proper figure, and I would say it still holds up fairly well to this day.
Nice.
And actually, I haven't touched this figure in so long, and he holds up really well.
Yeah.
But there are some things I would probably do differently now, but I'm just still so proud of how I did like the mask and everything.
Yeah. So, I remember seeing that. It looked really good on Instagram.
I love Zemo so much. He's one of my favorite MCU ones.
And I have to say this. So when I was on Twitter, right, I was in certain crowds with like, the critics and stuff. And, at the time there was my whole thing with Southpaw and Civil War and all that. And I had been in conversations with Southpaw where he believed like Zemo, when you think about his plan, it falls apart and there's a lot more flaws with it. And now here's what happened, right? At the time, I was hearing him out. I was hearing out his points. And there were arguments he made where I did agree with them at the time. And I did reevaluate Zemo a bit. But what I will say is this. What got me back to thinking like, oh no, Zemo's great. What the fuck am I talking about? Was not only reevaluating, my standards of what I enjoy with stuff. Because and to anybody who sees this, I don't judge media solely off writing. I think it kind of does a disservice to other aspects that make a movie or show or game or whatever. And especially for an animation person, like you can't just say, I take it as an insult if you say like, oh, the writing is the only thing that matters with an animated movie. Honestly, fuck you if you think that, because animation especially, you're making everything basically from scratch. So it feels like and also plus animation, a lot of little bits that people love in animation where it's like characters doing something or background gags that build character. That's important too. And that's not always in the script. So, but anyway, so there was a time where even though I've reevaluated, that's what I love about Zemo, even though I've reevaluated him a bit and been in conversations with people who didn't think he was a good villain, my enjoyment of his character has remained unshaken. And I love what they do with him. Even in Falcon and Winter Soldier, a show I have very mixed opinions on, he the retcon of him being like a baron from Sokovia is a little jarring for a second. It's like, oh, okay. But it does kind of make sense in hindsight, especially if it means like he had money and resources to acquire some stuff that he does in Civil War. And on top of that, in Falcon and Winter Soldier, even if it is a bit of an odd pill to swallow, he's so fucking entertaining and fun.
I love his brings so much.
Such energy, even ignoring like the dance, which is hilarious. He is just.
I remember when that broke the internet for like a week. That was
that was so fun. But yeah, Zemo. Honestly, I'm gonna say it. I think Zemo is still my favorite MCU villain. I think he's. Oh shit! Now it's tough. There's one other character that rivals him for me.
I think there's one or two MCU villains who rival Zemo. I'm not sure.
At least in terms of my enjoyment, there's one character I'm thinking of where I'm like, fuck, that might overtake it. Especially since he's not.
There's one that I know who definitely rivals Zemo. There's another one who may.
Okay. But yeah, at the very least, even if he was still my favorite for a time, and even if he's not my favorite MCU villain, I just love seeing Zemo. He's probably my favorite Marvel villain, period. Definitely my favorite Captain America villain. I think he's Cap's best foe, honestly, because where Red Skull is powerful and strong and stuff, but he's more like the Hitler, the going out and making these speeches and Nazi stuff. Zemo's a lot more interesting to me. Because
Zemo's just a guy.
Right, because he's quieter, because he's even when he's Hydra and not like wears the mask and stuff and is a Nazi, he's a scientist and he's more low key and tactical and in particular is very
that's not low. This is low key.
Oh, okay. Someone in the comments was confused for a sec, I think.
No, because you said he's very low key, and I pointed. I said, no, this is.
I ruined the joke. I'm apologize. But yeah, I love Zemo. He absolutely. I think Zemo is very goated. I honestly, a part of me is happy he's not in. When I first saw that Thunderbolts was announced, a part of me was, and he wasn't in it, even though he's like one of the members in the comics. A part of me was kind of happy about that. Like, okay, if this movie blows, they won't ruin him. But now that the Thunderbolts trailer comes out and it looks good, and I'm unironically excited for it more than the Captain America movie, I'm like, fuck, now I want Zemo in that movie. I think he could have been interesting.
Put him in anything, man.
Yeah, I'd love to see him again. Maybe a Thunderbolt sequel where he pretends to be Citizen V like he does in the comics, and then it's revealed it's Zemo or something. But yeah, Zemo, I love that we both agree he's goated. Okay, Caecilius, another hot take. I think he's perfectly serviceable and has some really good moments. I know a lot of people consider him trash and that they wasted Mad Mikkelsen, which never heard that before. I don't think he's
trash. I more so just find him just unbelievably bland. His design is cool, but that's really about it.
I think the biggest problem with Caecilius is that they mention his past and allude to it, but they don't show it outside of, I think, a prelude comic that came out for Doctor Strange, and that's it. Because basically, like they say in the movie, like he came to Kamar-Taj, a grieving, broken man that lost everything, and he let the power get to his head in a quest to defy death and time because of his philosophy of time is the enemy of us all, time kills everything, which I think is interesting. And I like the scene where he's chained up in that weird like BDSM device or whatever and is talking to Strange. And you can see, like, through Mad Mikkelsen's performance, he genuinely believes what he's saying with the Dormammu shit, and even reflects Strange a bit. Like, when Strange is like, what about the people you kill? He says the same words that Strange did to the Ancient One of how, like, they were insignificant momentary specks in the greater fold of the universe and stuff, which basically, like, really puts shit in perspective for Strange as the Doctor. And so in Doctor Strange, I think he works great, but as like a villain in wider context of the MCU, I think he's fine and has good moments. He just needed a little more, and I get why people don't love him for sure.
I just think he's a waste of Mads Mikkelsen because I think he would have made an excellent Doctor Doom. Obviously that's not what happened, but I wish he was just used differently. But I don't know. I was gonna put him in wasted potential, but you would have put him in what, good?
I think I would have put him in good or mid. Either works for me. I'm not really.
We could just put him in mid.
Yeah, let's just mid compromise. I think it's perfectly fine.
I'll put him above Yellow Jacket.
Okay. Dormammu.
I actually think Dormammu's pretty cool. I just think I have to be, because I have to grade these in the sense that how did they fulfill the purpose they were given? Because obviously Dormammu is not the main villain, but I would say I wanted to still include him, similar to Surtur, who is later in the list.
Yeah,
I still think he's important enough to be mentioned, and he serves a fitting role, and I think that the Dormammu scene is the best part of the movie.
It's one of the best scenes ever in the MCU for sure. Like, it, even ignoring the obvious joke and like the amazing visual effects and stuff, I think I also love the underrated bit where he says where he's talking to Strange, and it's like, you will spend eternity suffering, and it's like, yes, but everyone on Earth will be free, and he's like, but you will suffer, and Strange says, pain's an old friend. Like, that hits so hard for me with his arc, because like Doctor Strange is it's easily a top 10 MCU movie for me. I know, like, I'm one of Doctor Strange's biggest shooters. Is like
I love Strange as a character. I don't love the first movie, but I revisit it now and again.
I will say, I don't think the one thing I think Multiverse of Madness does better than the first movie is the visuals. I love the look of the first Doctor Strange, but it definitely has a lot of what you'd expect out of the MCU, even with Scott Derrickson's slight horror touches and cosmic horror experimentation.
I'd say the second movie has worse like CGI, but it's I think the color and just the overall like
It's just a vibe.
It's way more vibrant looking.
There's a vibrance and energy to it and I get why they were going for it with the first Doctor Strange, because it has dour moments and there is something nice to like the misty, cloudy day look. I like seeing that in movies, which is why I personally don't hate it in stuff like Civil War, but that like a lot of people do with the airport fight. But yeah, I do agree. I get why some people don't love Doctor Strange, but yeah, Dormammu, I think he works perfectly fine for what he is. He's not really a character, but he's a good threat, and he has like he's part of one of the standout moments. So I'm okay with putting him in mid or good.
We'll honestly put him in good. I'm gonna put him right below Crossbones.
Yeah, it works for me. Okay, Ego. Oh, we're back to good shit. Oh my gosh,
Ego. You want to do really great? Okay, so I don't know if he's goated, but I'm gonna put him in. I'm gonna put him above.
I think really great is completely fair. Either works for me, but really great is completely fair.
I don't know if he's above Loki though, but this is so because I'm gonna put him below Loki for now. But I really love Ego. He's I do too. That moment. Because that moment for Ego was it's so good.
I still remember seeing that in the theater and gasping out loud. Like it was, I think everything went dead silent the moment that happened for most people. It just
people meme that scene so much, but it's
but it's genuinely
kind of annoys me because it's such a good moment.
It's so like painful and so well acted. It's just and then from there he's like an intimidating threat that almost basically succeeds. Like his celestial seeds expand and start like affecting shit on other worlds, so he gets closer with his plan too. And he's on top of that, Kurt Russell just does such a good job of playing the charismatic dad earlier in the film, but there's just enough hints that something is up with this guy. Like there's clearly something wrong. Oh my gosh.
Also, not enough people notice this in the first scene with him when they're by the campfire and he's and he says, "Oh, excuse me, I gotta take a whiz," and he's peeing. He's whistling the song "Brandy," which is what he ends up using later on in the movie to coax Peter into joining.
Yeah, like I love my lady the sea. Oh. Fuck me.
And then when he destroys the Walkman, he says, "Peter, this is the sea."
That broke me as a kid. Like that was, I didn't cry, but I was like, "Oh fuck you."
It hurt.
He's such a good love to hate. He's such a good love to hate villain. Just the perfect definition of you, bitch. In terms of that raw reaction.
He has one of the most like satisfying deaths in the entire MCU.
Yeah, and I love that ending delivery of like "you'll be just like everybody else."
Oh my god,
so wrong with that?
Because like I almost felt bad for him when he's like screaming that they have to stop the bomb, and then you're like, I feel bad for him, and you're like, oh yeah, he gave his wife cancer.
Yeah, it's like burn, bitch.
I was like, all right. He kind of deserves it.
Yeah.
But I also here's the thing. This is a movie with two really good villains because I like Aisha.
Yeah, I really like Aisha. I wish she got a little more screen time, but I love what they did. Elizabeth Debicki does a great job with this character. Like she is so. And on top of that, the makeup looks amazing. Like the Guardians movies always have good makeup, but
so good with the practical.
Even when it's just the simple stuff, like making a person look like they're made out of gold. Like they do a really good job with it. And the Sovereign aesthetic is beautiful. I love the look of their drones and their planet. It has this vaguely like almost like 60s simplified like outer space look at times inside, but there's all this ornate gold shit that feels like it's ripped out of Skylanders. It's so cool.
They look
how
really
they
cool.
I love the art direction in these movies so much, and the visuals.
She's just so tall too. She has such like an imposing physique.
Right.
I don't know if you watched the movie Maxine, but she's in that, and
interesting.
She towers over everyone else in that, because in this movie she really isn't acting with people like next to her aside from like a couple crowd shots, but when she's in Maxine, she's always walking with someone, talking with someone, and she just is like a head and a half taller than everyone. Wow. So it's just she has such an imposing silhouette. So she makes Aisha is just a very captivating character.
And I also love how petty she is. Like her entire motivation is like we trusted the Guardians to assist us and they steal from us. And she dedicates like the rest of the movie to just like, you know what? Fuck these traitors in particular. Let's just kill them.
Heresy of the highest order.
Yeah, I was so glad to see her back in 3. Like I was so happy they brought her back.
I didn't even know she was gonna be in it. So when she showed up in that scene, I was like, oh shit. I'm like, oh, Aisha's back.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was surprised when they killed her. I did not see that coming. I was
really
the Adamant's planet. That was so Counter Earth. Yeah, that was just like fuck. Shit's really getting serious now.
And literally came out of nowhere.
Yeah. But yeah, she's good. I agree.
Put her in good. Yeah, I put her in good too.
All right, Vulture.
Now we're on like a streak right now with good MCU ones. We got the Vulture.
Vulture's really good. Yeah, I think he's.
Would you put him in goated?
I personally put him in really great, but I'm fine if you put him in goated. I think
because I'm between. Awesome. If you were gonna say goated, I would have gone for it. But for now, let's just do really great. I'm gonna put him above. I'm gonna put him above. Would you agree with above Loki?
I think that works. Yeah, and you know, I'm not gonna get too picky about the order. I would honestly like reorder these my own way. But yeah, I agree, think Vulture.
I'm not putting too much thought into the ordering. I'm just kind of like plopping them. I'm not going like this one.
And it creates like it's like what does this look good next to as well with your mind's eye. Yeah, I agree. But yeah, Vulture there's a reason a lot of people look back fondly on him and Homecoming. I have to say, like, I have to rewatch the Spider-Man MCU movies. I kind of got to reevaluate them a bit, but I've always liked Homecoming. That's never changed, and Vulture's one of the reasons.
Homecoming, even coming out of it the first time, I thought it was great.
I really enjoyed seeing it in theater. I wish they hadn't basically spoiled it in the trailers.
That movie had garbage marketing.
The trailers just gave away too much. It was so fucking frustrating. The final trailer was basically all 3 acts spoiled in one go. Linearly.
I mean, it took them 3 movies to realize maybe we shouldn't show everything.
Right, but even then, the leak culture of No Way Home was fucking ridiculous.
Honestly, I think the trailers for No Way Home shouldn't have shown any of the cameo characters. I think that if it ended with the spell breaking and it was just be careful what you wish for, Parker, and that was the trailer.
Right.
I think that would have been perfect. I don't think they needed to show any of the other characters. I think even then, I didn't even think we should have seen, like, at the minimum, we could have just seen
like Doc Ock's arm or like a goblin
just
bomb.
Doc Ock's arms and like the Green Goblin. We did not need to see Green Goblin in full.
Just that, like, edging, so to speak. Like, just that stuff would be enough for Raimi fans.
If it was like, I'm imagining, like, the spell breaks, and it's the line, be careful what you wish for, Parker, and then title card, No Way Home, and then it cuts to, like, Doc Ock's arms coming out of the bridge, and then it's like, trailer's over. Like, that would have been perfect.
More than enough.
Or, like, the Green Goblin bomb, like, being thrown out, and you hear Willem Dafoe laughing. Like, literally, that still would have broken the internet.
Yeah, that's what would have like made everybody lose their fucking minds. But yeah, Vulture works really well in Homecoming. I like the way they changed him basically from like a petty old engineer to like a blue collar worker who's screwed over. This is something
someone would do in life if it happened.
Yeah, and I like how with Vulture, there's also like this singe of he's clearly okay with like doing dirty business and justifying it for his family. Like that scene where he just he obviously accidentally kills Shocker with that one fucked up gun. Is like, I thought this was the anti-gravity gun. No, that one is. And he's not like horrified. He's like, okay, move on. He literally grabs the gauntlet, like shakes his remains out of his like, here, now you're the Shocker. It's like, Jesus, that's.
I like how every Spider-Man movie elevates that, because it's like Vulture is a guy who he doesn't want to kill Peter, but if he has to, he will. But he's mainly non-violent. Like at least that's what he aims for. And then Mysterio is his plan is like collateral damage.
Right.
Oh shit. He clearly doesn't really like killing, but he's very lax at it. Really, he doesn't care. Okay. And then you get to the third movie and you're dealing with these experienced villains who not only are comfortable with killing, but they like it. And they think it's entertaining.
With the exception
of the Green Goblin.
With the exception of one, we'll get to it. I have words. But yeah, Vulture. Also, I know this feels like a no-brainer, but the design, like, holy shit, whoever came up with this design.
I literally wrote in my notes that I wanted to talk about Vulture's design. I almost forgot it.
Dude, the like translating his fuzzy collar as like a jacket with a fluffy collar is one thing. Giving him like fucking like different wings and then giving him like those creepy piercing green eyes and they beat a oxygen mask that it looks like a beak. That's the one thing I have to say. I'm kind of pissed we didn't get like new original villains in No Way Home because Vulture and Mysterio look so fucking good in these movies. It's like, shit, what would they have done with Chameleon or Kraven or all these other characters they could throw in?
Mysterio's costume is so good. And I wish that with Doc Ock, I think that the Raimi design looks perfectly fine.
Dude, there's concept art of Doc Ock with like the green and yellow comic suit for No Way Home. It's so fucking good, and I'm like, man,
I'm okay with them not doing that just because I don't.
It would be a little jarring, I guess.
Yeah, I don't like Electro's design. I think his crest. I think his crest appearing when he fires the lightning is really cool. I wish I like how it's not always defined whenever he's always doing it. It's only like it pops up now and again. But I think like the scrap together design just doesn't look super appealing. And then Sandman and Lizard are literally naked.
They're just the same with worse CGI. So it's like
those poor bastards.
Right.
But Shocker is also in this movie. I genuinely forgot he was on the list.
He is Shocker's one of those characters where it's like he's there. I'm gonna say wasted potential because Hernan Schultz just doesn't get any time to be a character.
I'll put him above Abomination because he's at least consistent.
Right. I'm kind of pissed. There was a toy released for Spider-Man Homecoming, like an action figure that looked like an actual Shocker suit with not just the crossbone looking gauntlets, but like the yellow oven mitt look and like goggles and stuff. And it's like,
wait, what? Wait,
yeah, there was like I might be able to, I can actually look it up real quick.
Oh my
God.
Wait, what? That was so cool.
Right? It's like, fuck, why couldn't we get that as a costume?
I feel bad for whoever made that toy. They probably were pissed when they saw that movie.
Yeah, and I think there was some weird confusion. There was like another, like there were, in the hype to Homecoming, there were like quote unquote like fake behind the scene pictures that came out of like a Shocker suit. But apparently it was like a fan film or a different project, but it happened to look a lot like this suit in the toy. So it's like, wait,
the one from Spider-Man Lotus.
Oh God,
it's my Shocker suit.
Oh Christ!
Your Shocker suit. That's what you're calling it.
I haven't seen Lotus, thank God, but I have seen that clip, and I was like, "Fuck, what happened?"
That movie is so fucking funny.
Oh my God.
But no, I don't like it. I'm so surprised that we haven't seen Shocker again. A lot of the characters in Homecoming have just vanished without appearing ever again. Like,
don't even get me started on the fucking dude from Better Call Saul that was supposed to be Scorpion. Like,
oh yeah, he's gone.
His
the Tinkerer hasn't shown back up. Vulture has been literally exiled to the realm of not being allowed to be in movies anymore.
Right. Thank you. Thanks, Morbius.
He got exiled to another dimension. Because they didn't know what to do with it.
Right, because the logic behind the No Way Home spell was shit, and then Spider-Verse made it weirdly retroactively work because of like the whole the dimensions and like shooting guys into the wrong universe. So it makes sense now technically with Spider-Verse, but just off No Way Home, it's like, What?
Yeah, it's weird.
But yeah, Shocker he's just kind of there. He works as a grunt, but he's kind of wasted potential. I like that they modeled his gauntlets a little similar to Crossbones. That was cool, but there's not.
They utilize like the Chitauri Chitauri tech. Like it makes sense that they recycle things because Adrian is a vulture. Like he scavenges. And that even plays into his theme song, which is essentially a reverted version of the Avengers theme.
I didn't even know that. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Like the Avengers theme goes like dun 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 dun, and then Vulture's is dun 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 dun. It's like essentially reverted.
Oh yeah, I remember that leitmotif now. That's cool.
It's really cool. Like he not only like scavenged his own parts, he scavenged his own theme song.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Avengers tag
and making Vulture an actual fucking scavenger. Also, one last thing about Vulture before we move on. So, the montage of Peter getting ready for the date, and then he opens the door.
Oh my God.
What a fucking reveal! What a reveal! That was so awesome.
Literally one of the best twists in any Marvel movie. It's so good.
And that was one of the and it worked so well. Even when I saw the movie, that was like the most shocking part of the movie because it wasn't in the trailers. That was the one thing they restrained from the trailers, and it was so fucking good.
I genuinely don't know how they did it so well because it's such a simple twist, and the way that they build up to it with like Peter's so nervous and Adrian isn't even catching on. He's super chillaxed because he's happy his daughter's going out to homecoming.
Right.
He's being a little snippy with Peter because he's his daughter's date, and it's cute where he's like, Peter, you want a drink? And he's like, I'm not 21. He's like, good answer, and which even plays back into Far From Home because Mysterio asks him the same question and Peter says, I'm not 21, which is great. But it's like, and then that scene in the car. Where Liz is prodding Peter and she doesn't know, and Adrian is like thinking to himself.
Not to mention that fucking green light's perfectly timed lighting that gave him like the Green Goblin looking ass smile and face. It's like, man, it's some of
the best direction in any Marvel movie. It's one of my the way that he kind of just turns to Peter and he just goes, good old Spider-Man, and it's like it's not like overly dramatic. It's just a guy. It's Adrian is like Michael Keaton genuinely gave one of
and it almost gels with like the awkward dad humor of like trying to play up like the smiles and stuff. So it makes it feel more natural. It's so great.
And that just makes it all the more imposing. Adrian Toomes is genuinely one of the best MCU villain. You kind of want to bump him up to goated.
Honestly, yeah. Like, let's get him to goated. Actually, the more I talk about him, the more I'm like, what was I thinking? Slap him in goated, 100%. Yeah. Okay, so Hela. Really, I think Hela's really great. I love I like Hela a lot. She's easily the best of the first three Thor movie villains. Like,
she's not super like three-dimensional, but she doesn't have to be because I feel like she's just they do such a good job presenting her as a threat, like physically, because it's very rare for an MCU villain to showcase how powerful they are and also how consistent their power can be. And they do such a great job with the opening of her storming Asgard and killing the guards, and
not to mention like breaking Mjolnir. What a fucking trailer!
That is like such a great shot and such a great moment to define her character.
And she's also funny too. That's the other thing. Like, she's very entertaining, and I love this.
Really great.
Like when she gets on Asgard and the one warrior addresses her, and she's like, "Whoever I am, did you not hear a word
I said?" I quote that so much. I love that line from Hela, and
I also like it earlier when
sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna mention how earlier in that speech she's like, "My father is dead, and the princes, you're welcome."
You're welcome. And also the her storming the trophy room is really
fun.
Like,
I love the scene with the eternal flame when she like falls down that hole and like reactivates the zombies. That's such a cool scene.
And I like the one where she's talking to Carl Urban, and she's like, I forgot the exact quote, but she was like, the executioner, and she was like, reinstated executioners, not just to execute people, but also to execute their dreams, but also to mainly execute people. And like, it kind of just played off as like not like a quit, but just
like realize so backtracking almost.
Yeah, and I like how they beat Hela in a way that isn't punch her very hard.
There's a reason you can't defeat me. Yeah, I know.
No, but he
can. There's a reason that's a meme. It's so, and plus she gets that cool shot of like making just getting the last ounce of her blades out and spears
with like
shit.
The big sword. Oh my god, that's great.
Rising out of the water. And I mean, I have to say, by the way, she's one of those times where they really started adapting the comic suits a bit more closely, and it looked good. Like, it's not the exact same, of course, but they got the horned helmet, they got the green, they got the detailing, and they really just leaned into her, being this goddess of death, and she's such an entertaining character. She's easily one of the funny, like, most entertaining parts of Ragnarok. And then she does add a little nuance to Asgard with the whole thing of her being the firstborn of Odin's family, and how Asgard was built on like conquering and taking from other worlds, but then Odin had a change of heart and she just sunk lower into that, which is why he tried to lock her away and forget about her. I think it adds a little bit of justification to her actions from her mindset, but also adds a bit of, like moral gray to Asgard about like, what does it really stand for at that point in the movie? Yeah. I know Ragnarok's mainly a comedy, but it also has those little dramatic touches that like they aren't even
just some very nice emotional moments. A lot of people overlook that movie for just being like a shallow comedy. It has some very nice, especially that one scene with Valkyrie. Her flashback against Hela is really, really powerful.
Yeah, that whole sequence, I wish that sequence was a little longer because the visuals on that were so good with the lighting and everything with Helheim and the Valkyries. They really did a good job. Ragnarok's one of those movies where it's clearly got like a lot of cracks in its CGI at times, but you almost don't really care because it's just so cool.
It's like one of the only Marvel movies that has color in it.
Yeah, at least in phase 3. And it's so, like, for example, like Fenris, the giant wolf, there's some shots where he's clearly green screened in and he's not there, but I don't care because it's a giant black fucking wolf of death, just like chilling while Hela addresses people.
Fenris is like the coolest dog since I can't think of a funnier dog, but Fenris cool. I like Fenris, but next up is Surtur, and Surtur is similar. I'm gonna put him I think he's better than Dormammu, but
yeah, he's basically the same as Dormammu. He's not like a deep character, but he has a bit more character than Dormammu, and he works for what he is in the story. And
I think he looks great. I love Clancy Brown personally.
Yes, Clancy Brown is that's another thing. I'm a sucker for characters that just have like big fuck off unibrow horns on their faces or whatever.
Crown
design. Yeah, the crown works really well. I think, and the CGI is good too. Like, I'll admit, like characters that look like they're on fire are hit or miss for me. Sometimes I usually tend to think they look fucking amazing or are the most generic shit ever. But Surtur is distinct enough in his flaming skeleton look. It really stands out.
Great. I think so.
And then him destroying Asgard is just like perfectly set up, and the CGI is so good, and the voice acting, it works so well.
Yeah. And next up is, there's so many villains in.
Oh my god, that's right. The fucking Grandmaster's in this. He's fun. He's great.
Honestly, I'm gonna put him above Hela, but
interesting.
Only because of Jeff Goldblum's performance.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's because of Jeff Goldblum. And he's so entertaining.
So my favorite moment from him is when they're talking about like time being different, and he's like, oh, on any other planet,
yes,
hundreds of thousands of years old, but here on Sakaar, And he just looks around. And he just kind of looks around. He's so good. Like
it's the perfect amount of awkward and fun, and it just I mean I especially love the comedy they get out of him. I mean the fucking "It's my birthday" is one of
so
the that's one of the MCU jokes.
Every time birthday I post my Instagram.
I love it so much.
That's like a nearly 7-year-old scene, and I still post it.
It's still so it's also still fucking funny because the delivery itself is great, and then Topaz's death is immediately after, so it just adds to like the Jesus Christ.
It's so good.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god, next up is my boy Andy Serkis, Kino White.
Yeah.
I love Andy Serkis.
Here's the thing. Yeah, I think Claw is good. I don't think he's amazing. I think Andy Serkis
I was gonna put him in great.
I think you can put him at the bottom of great. That's fine. I think Andy Serkis.
We'll put him at the bottom.
Serkis elevates him a lot. It's just that like I think the only problem with Claw is that he's in a movie where he's not like given all the time to shine, I'd say, because of Killmonger. So and he gets killed off at the end, so we can't do like I don't know, maybe it'd be a little too much with superpowers and stuff, but you know, in other media he's a more prevalent threat. Sometimes he is like the Joker to Black Panther's Batman. Like sometimes he's the Black Panther archenemy as like this. And like he in other stuff, he's like the descendant of like South African colonists and has a lot of like shit going on. And there's most of the time what ends up happening with Claw is that due to shit with vibranium and his arm cannon, he ends up becoming like a being of sound, like a literal sound monster. So even if you kill him, he could theoretically come back somehow. And while I'm fine with what they did with him in the movie and it worked out well, I part of me does think they could have done a little more with him, given the setup that was in Age of Ultron with losing his arm, which I'm glad they paid off. But yeah, Andy Serkis is really funny in the role. I love the bit with the exchange with Martin Freeman, like it's quite the entourage. You dropping a mixtape? Oh yeah. I'll send you SoundCloud link if you'd like. And can we get the SoundCloud link for that? It's like, no, I don't want to hear your music.
I love Andy Serkis so much. It's just I think he's the only person in this entire list I've actually met in real life.
Interesting.
But he's such a teddy bear. Like I met him at Star Wars Celebration, and we had a photo op, and he was so sweet. And I said, because I was in a Cassian Andor costume, and I said to him, do you want to do on program? Because this was after Andor. So
dude.
He got all excited. He's like, yeah, let's do it. And his face like transformed. He just looked so stoic. And then they snapped the photo, and he just went back to being all like teary.
I love that shit with actors. It's so good, man.
He was just, I love him so much, and it's just. I am always willing to give something a shot if he's in it. I watched the Luthor movie with Idris Elba, and I didn't like it at all. But I watched it because Andy Serkis was in it, and he had the most ridiculous wig on. But I don't care because he still did a very good job in it. He looked like Donald Trump with his hair, and like it looked ridiculous. But I don't care because he still did very good.
That kind of makes it more entertaining. Like a bad wig can serve as unintentional comedy, so it probably adds to it. There's also
a great shot where he's like running in the snow and he like trips, and it looks like a blooper because it just happens so suddenly. And I wanted to ask him at Celebration if in Luthor that was a blooper or not, but I didn't have enough time. And but it was like I love that scene, and it's from a movie I have literally no opinion on because I know nothing about Luthor because I know it's based on like a TV show or like an older movie. I think
it's always there's always some movie like that based on some book that was like, oh yeah, that was a thing. I think
but that scene, I'm very passionate about that one scene where he trips on the snow. And next up is We're in the era of good ass.
Phase 3 was like banger after banger for the most part. Like they really did it with the Killmonger is really damn good. I do
put him in goated.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah. I love Killmonger. Eric Stevens. No, wait, that's not the actor. Michael B. Jordan does such a good job in the role. I know a lot of people, have you seen the memes of like, the Killmonger cut is the only one in video games for black protagonists?
Yeah,
that's like
Killmonger played black people.
Jesus.
Please don't take that out of context.
And I think what I love about Killmonger is that a lot of people, when they read his character, obviously when he talks and discusses himself, he obviously has all this discussions about liberating people and giving power back to people because of his experiences and also the stuff with his father. And a part of me, and while I agree that a lot of it is genuine, I also think that a lot of people tend to overlook parts of his character. Like I know like unfinished CGI, we've talked about it millions of times, but in the train fight, first off, I didn't realize this at the time, but somebody pointed this out in a video, a movie that obviously takes a lot of historical inspiration from Black culture, having a final battle in an underground railroad. Good on you, Ryan Coogler.
I never thought of it that way. Okay.
I know, it's so weird, but now that I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't register as that. But then also,
all right, Black Panther final battle. You get a flutter shot right there.
But then I have to say, I love the exchange where the train is going back and forth. And yes, again, the CGI is flawed. A million people have said this already. But I was still invested in the emotion between the two where they're talking back and forth. And Killmonger is venting and blustering to T'Challa. But T'Challa, says, you want us to become like the people you hate so much. Divide and conquer just like them. And Killmonger says, I learned from my enemies. Got inside their own heads. And T'Challa's like, yeah, you have become them. You will destroy the world. And then we get him shouting the world took everything away from me, everything I ever loved, but I'm going to make sure we're even. And he starts threatening to kill T'Challa's loved ones. It's that to me was when we saw the real Killmonger, deep down beneath all the stuff of just all his personal history with his father, all the oppression he's witnessed in his life, all the killing. Deep down, there is a sad, broken little boy or man or however you want to look at it who just wants to hurt the world. He's not truly in it deep down for other people and lifting up and liberating. He just wants to light shit on fire and cause chaos because of how everything was taken from him and thrust upon him. And I think that him being, I completely understand if people view Killmonger's character as, a liberator and a symbol for, rising up against certain powers. And I appreciate that the movies, he actually has impact on the plot and does change the status quo a little with the Black Panther films. But I think the disingenuous, interpretation of his character, of what he's really masking deep down, makes him even more interesting to me and heightens a lot of what happens in that movie. So yeah, I love Killmonger. And also making his suit, they call it the Golden Jaguar suit in the marketing. And I think that's actually pretty clever given that, a little zoology fun fact. So Black Panthers aren't technically a real animal. What happens is there's this melanism thing at birth that occurs in 5% with jaguars and leopards. So that way their fur becomes black, but you can still see the spots on their fur. They're basically a lighter brown. And so in this case, obviously Black Panther in Africa, that makes it a leopard, but then having the American character be a jaguar, since jaguars are from the Americas, leopard and jaguar, two Black Panthers. It's that it's a small thing, but I really like it from a visual standpoint, because even though it's technically another villain with the same power and suit as the main hero thing, the character is much more interesting, and that little detail, I'm I appreciate that as someone who wanted to be a zoologist when he was a kid. It's fun. I love little details like that with the costuming.
Next up, we got
we got
a purple thumb.
We have Infinity War Thanos. Yeah, he's goated.
For context, I 2014 Thanos
Yes,
and Infinity
I know
War
what you're
Thanos.
going to say. Different characters. I agree.
I have a lot to say about how Thanos was handled in Endgame. It may be an unpopular opinion, but we'll get to that in a second. But I wanted to just separate it because these are two very distinct versions of essentially the same character. But I love Infinity War Thanos.
Yeah, they did such a great job at taking this character who honestly could have been a complete dud. Because as much as we like to hype up the MCU compared to the DCEU and like how they built up to their main threat, realistically, Thanos, like, he wasn't a deep character. Like, we knew he wanted violence and like cared about Gamora, but that was the most it ever got. And that a lot of that was, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy's work. Even the Infinity Stone stuff, like James Gunn like wrote the backstory for the Infinity Stones within like an hour or like a day or something, and then that's what they ran with for the MCU with after the first Guardians. So, but yeah, I think Infinity War did an incredible job, not only like making an amazing CGI character that looked like almost always convincing, but also like, especially with Josh Brolin's performance, but also taking a character who could have been a dud and didn't get a ton of characterization and adding so much in one fell swoop that he became like one of the villain icons, I'd say, in film history. I know it sounds like a high order, but that, like, really.
No, I would say that Thanos has cemented himself as like a modern day Darth Vader.
He's one of the most talked about villains ever. He's up there with, like Darth Vader.
He's the guy from Fortnite.
He's the guy from Fortnite. To be fair, Fortnite went crazy with him. Even back when I was in my Fortnite is cringe because I said so Minecraft better phase. But like he looked good in Fortnite, so I can't. But yeah,
I remember when Cosmonaut did a video on One Marvelous Scene. He was talking about how the farm was his favorite.
I saw that video. I love how he loves that out of spite, basically, to his friends. That's so fucking funny.
And he was saying how, like, Thanos became popular, essentially, like he was not expecting it at all. And he said that, he's like, I remember I was on a flight one day, and I heard an old lady behind me going, that new Marvel movie with Thanos? And he's like, and I had to think about the fact that I heard an old, like, Southern lady say the name Thanos, and I was like, holy shit, this guy has had reach on pop culture.
I actually remember that. Was that Cosmonaut or Shafrillas?
No, that was Cosmonaut.
Okay. I've seen both of those videos, but yeah,
Marcus likes the farm scene out of spite for his friends, because on the way to the movie he said, oh, by the way, Infinity War ends with like a scene of Thanos on like a farm, and it's really stupid. And then he's like, everyone was bawling their eyes out, and I was just sitting there smiling like a jackass.
I respect that 100%.
But
okay. But yeah, with Thanos, I don't really have much to say about him because he's kind of just spoken for. Like with Thanos,
we already know why Thanos is so good. We love Thanos.
Yeah, and
everyone likes Thanos.
Yeah, but by proxy, the Black Order is up next.
I like the Black Order. I like
them too.
They remind me a lot of the Knights of Ren if the Knights of Ren were used well.
Yes, they're the Knights of Ren, but they actually do shit and like are a threat.
They look amazing.
Yeah,
they have really good action scenes, and they're an actual threat.
Yeah, the CGI is great.
As hell.
The vocal performances. I will say it is funny with Cull Obsidian. So something funny happened. There's this thing I've noticed a lot in toys, where typically what happens with toys for movies, there's a lot of times, especially with superhero movies, where because they change so much from the early stages to the release, there will be times where you get toys that were clearly made off of concept art that look nothing like the final version. You probably remember, did you see like the Funko Pop for Spider-Bite from Across the Spider-Verse and how it's just a completely different design? Weird. Cull Obsidian is not as that egregious in terms of difference, but you can tell in the toys there's a lot of, they kind of fixed it towards the end, but in the toys he's got like these like sharp knuckles. There's not a single toy, and like another version he's got this big ass hammer that looks nothing like the movie version with the weird pickaxe. So I just find that funny because I could tell in the marketing to Infinity War, like, oh yeah, they changed this guy a shit ton.
Because I know he gets a robot hand in the second half of the movie.
Right.
The Funko Pop and like the Lego figure have like fucking staple guns for some
Right,
reason.
like, they clearly had no idea what to fucking give him. Even though in the comics, he just has a fat-ass axe. So I don't know why it took so long.
His toys are really weird, and
Yeah.
I like the consistency in that they give him a robot arm. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I like how all of them are distinct. I wish they got more in depth on like their relationship with Thanos, because when Maw dies, Thanos doesn't really care compared to when Gamora dies and he's
right. But even
distraught.
then, but even then, Thanos is still respectful because he's like, I take it that Maw is dead, and he's like, yeah, but he's still, at least he accomplished his mission.
A great toll. But like compared to Gamora, where he was distraught, and then with Maw, it's like he's like, he was a good friend. Anyway,
basically,
I was caught off guard because I was like, wasn't he like almost your kid, or what? Is like, I guess Children of Thanos for them isn't a literal title. It's just like a figurative sense, but then you have like Gamora and Nebula are the actual children of Thanos.
Right. But with the Black Order, I think the Black Order, they're basically, a lot like Crossbones for me, where they look good and they work for what they are. They're not super deep, but that's okay. Because I like
Ebony Maw. I think if we were to do them on their own, Ebony Maw would be like in really great tier, but I'm probably just going to put them as good. Like,
if I had to rank them, I'd say it's like Maw is the best, Proxima's the second best, Corvus is the third, and then Cull Obsidian's the bottom. Virtually, by main virtue, just he doesn't get a ton of speaking time, even though he's like an actual threat in fights and stuff.
I mean, he doesn't even have any lines. I think he says Thanos.
He speaks in an alien language, so
there's a funny part where when Ebony Maw is like, you are about to die at the hands of the children of Thanos, and then Cull Obsidian just goes, Thanos, like, like he's an ape. Like,
I don't remember that part. I gotta rewatch the movie.
It's really funny. Like when Maw shows up in New York City, and Obsidian's like behind him, and then he's giving his speech, and then Obsidian just goes, Thanos. Like, it was really funny. And I also
like the bit where after Tony Stark delivers the "Get Lost, Squidward" line, Ebony Maw's like, he exhausts me while gesturing to Cull, and he's just like, bring me the stone, and Cull like is just speaking to himself.
He like drags along his hammer like he's bored.
Yeah.
They have the Black Order. They have some nice little gags in the background, and I like the way that they trick you into thinking that Corvus Glaive is dead, because Natasha says like, oh, where's your friend? And then Proxima's like, we will pay for his life with yours. And then you find out that actually he was alive the whole time.
Right. And Corvus
was just bullshitting.
And Corvus doesn't get a lot of time, but I really liked the bit where, like, he's stabbing Vision during the Wakanda fight. And he's like, I thought you were more than I thought you were more man machine. Or like, I thought you were more than like any other man.
No, he said, I thought you were a formidable machine, but you're dying like any other man. Like, that's good ass.
And then like the fucking the way Vision stabs him is also really satisfying. Like, just the way
it lifts him up off the ground too. It's great. And like the blood like splatters. Like, the Black Order has very graphic deaths.
Especially in Endgame. Remember in Endgame when they had like the female Avenger stuff? There's just a super quick bit with like Okoye. Like, she takes down a guy.
Him and
it's just
over her shoulder.
That was so fucking cool. And then when you look
to be like vengeance against him killing the Dora Milaje in Infinity War.
And then
that version of him hadn't done it yet.
Right. And then you look in the background of when like Thanos' forces are dusting, you can actually see Proxima like mourning him and then dusting.
They're married, and then, I think.
Yeah, because in the comics they're a thing. They're like a love interests. So it's only implied. They don't get
that at all in the movies, which I thought was odd.
Yeah, but they do at least like hint at it with.
Yeah,
right. They hint at it with her like being concerned when he gets stabbed and like trying to help him. So I like that. It gives them a little more agency. So I think the Black Order were good. They served their purpose and they were solid.
I remember I was thinking the Knights of Ren were going to be just as good as they were, and
man,
dude, imagine if the Knights of Ren were like the Black Order, where they were just always on Rey's tail, just constantly. Like, that would have. We would have got. Imagine if we got like a scene where they attacked Rey and then like all the other characters came to help them, and it was like that moment when Cap came back. Like that would have been, and maybe like it was Lando. Like Lando showed up in the Falcon. Like it was that,
like just like, or and at the very least, if you're just gonna have them in one final fight with Kylo, fine, have them like taunt Kylo a little bit before the fight, like make fun of him and degrade him for taking this different path, like, you know, because he's supposed to be their leader or a member of their group. It's like, what the fuck?
So I have talked about this a lot, where in the visual dictionary they try to essentially insist that they're cooler.
Right, they're like retconning them. They're retconning their cool factor.
Yeah. So like one of them, Trunjan, they're like, he has a vibro cleaver that can vibrate at super speed and can even cut through bone. But then in the movie, he like whacks Kylo with it and it just bruises him. So it's like, I guess he turned it off, but it's like, I guess they were like toying with him. But it's like, also, why didn't you just kill him then? And I guess you wanted to make him suffer, but you haven't done any characterization to pay that off.
Your menace comes from...
That's what we've talked about, because Andrew thought that was so stupid. Because he's
their menace comes from a flashback in The Force Awakens, and then nothing else. They're literally just there to like pose for the gram in the film. Like that's literally
one of my... I always say this whenever I'm watching The Force Awakens with a friend, the scene where they're watching that monkey boy make Kylo's helmet. I always say, me and the boys watching the Subway employee make our sandwich. It's literally just the Knights of Ren watching, literally them watching for 2 hours the alchemist reforge Kylo's helmet and welding it back into position and using like the laser cutting technology to
make sure to get the red lightning accents. That's very important for our drip consistency.
And they're just all patiently waiting with Kylo, and it's really funny when you consider that probably took like a good 2 hours. And it's like,
oh my
they're
God.
walking back and he's like, hey, I brought chips, is anyone hungry? And they're like, how we doing on the helmet? Is it done yet?
God, that would have been fucking hilarious if they had like God, that, you know, I'm against SNL skits of like certain stuff, but if we could get one more Star Wars sequel trilogy SNL skit, can it please be that? Like John Oliver just having a bit, like, it's about as awkward as this scene in The Rise of Skywalker where this weird monkey man makes Kylo Ren's mask, and all you can assume is that Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren, yep, I bet you forgot them too, just sit there and watch. One of them probably just left to grab a bag of fish and chips. Like, I got the this. How's the red accents coming along?
You need to make that animation now where it's just like the opening where it's the monkey making, and then it just cuts. Like the music just cuts, and it's just them watching the guys slowly like crank the helmet open, and they're just like awkwardly looking at one another, and then it just cuts to one of them. Like, how long is this supposed to take? And it's like 1 hour later, and then they come back, and then they're all like bored, like sitting on the floor, like playing with like the dirt.
Imagine a version of this.
Like, hey guys, he's like, hey, I brought chips, and it's like, holy fuck, you're still not finished.
Imagine a version of it where it's the Knights of Ren and Kylo just standing there watching, and it cuts back to him like that scene in Scott Pilgrim where Kylo's just like, wow, like watching it get built back together. Wow.
when Lucas Lee's doing the graph.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Wait, I need to make that now. I need to cut that where it's just the audio from Scott Pilgrim, and it's just Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren watching the monkey make the helmet. I need to make that now. Wait, I need to make that now. Oh my God!
And it's funny too because Adam Driver's face looks like an evolved version of Michael Cera, so it's.
Yeah, it does actually. I never thought about that before. I need to make that video now.
Oh my God, that's. I'm so glad we thought of that.
Oh anywho, yeah, wait, we need to do Ghost.
Yeah, this is a Marvel video. Yeah. Okay, Ghost. I like Ghost. I don't think she's fully realized, but I think she's good. I like what they did with her character a lot.
She's okay. I'm gonna put her below Aisha, but like above.
I think that's fair. I can't wait to see her back in Thunderbolts. I'm so excited to see what they do with her. It's nice to have her finally back at all. I have to say, by the way, there's actually a scene I really like from Ant-Man and the Wasp, and it's a weird scene that people don't remember when it's brought up, but there's actually this interaction between her and Bill that I really like because it's probably one of the most like subtle pieces of dialogue in the movie for me for like characterization. So there's like a bit where after she, has the scene of explaining her motivation to everyone and they flee, she has a bit where she's briefly talking with Foster and she's trying to think of a plan. And then she's like, Lang, he has a daughter, and she's about to leave to go threaten her. But then when they're talking, I love the part where Bill goes like, if you lay one finger on that little girl, we're done. And I loved that scene when I first saw it in the theater because you can tell he said that before, given what happened with Ava's backstory. And I'm like, that was good. That's a good moment. Yeah. And honestly, Ant-Man and the Wasp is a movie I feel kind of bad for. I rewatched it like a year ago. I didn't like it as much as I thought I would because I liked it in the theater. And then when I saw it on DVD, and there's parts of it I still love. But when I rewatched it, like in preparation for Quantum Mania, I was like, oh, I don't like this as much as I used to. That sucks. Because I love the first Ant-Man. The first Ant-Man is one of my favorite Marvel movies. But I think Ant-Man and the Wasp has some really good stuff in it. And I think for the most part, I really liked what they did with Ghost. I love the VFX as well is really cool. I love how it looks like they have an after image almost appear in advance before she phases through to give a sense of almost like she's predicting, like making a projection of the action she's going to make. But there's the added element of she's in pain doing that because of the quantum shit. I like what they did with Ghost. And her costume looks great. I think both of them.
I think really it looks cooler than the one in Thunderbolts. Honestly,
I think I would like the Thunderbolts costume more if they just give it the red eyes. Just give it the red eyes from the comics. That give it like the scare and give it the red eyes and the gas mask, and I'm set.
Why do all of the cool Iron Man villains not get to be in an Iron Man movie?
Right. Like, dude, there's a really interesting... Okay, so I tried... one thing I tried to do, because I thought about making a video essay on it, but I backed out of it, was I actually tried to read, like, Ironheart's, like, first comics to see how she was handled. And to see if, the grifters, like, if she's as bad as they say. So I'm reading the Invincible Iron Man comics she appears in. She's basically an afterthought in those comics, unfortunately. That's part of the problem. She feels disconnected from everything because the main plot is like Tony going undercover to help Rhodey with something. But there's a subplot where Pepper has to hold down the fort a bit. Or no, Mary Jane, who gets hired as a secretary for Stark Industries. She has to hold down the fort a bit with Friday, the AI. And when the board of committee shows up, like pissed because Stark's been MIA, they literally hire Ghost to break into his vault. Like they're just that pissed with it. Like it, and it's like, man, I really hope we see more of Ghost in the MCU because there's a lot of potential. But by contrast, next up we have Jan Rog, played by Jod.
Captain Silvo, aka Jodwing Zank, aka Professor Unanium Gorlox, aka Crimson Champ.
Yeah.
It's really funny. He plays a twist villain in both the MCU and
That's true.
And Star Wars. True. And they both have polar opposite results.
Yeah, I think
Jod is a fantastic character.
Whereas Jan Rog is just painfully mediocre, in my opinion. I think I
forgot that he had yellow eyes. When I went to go look up pictures of the character,
I legit Wait,
he has like yellow, like straight up like Sith Lord eyes. It's weird.
Let me look this shit up. Hold up a second. Okay, there's in the post. Really, oh my god, you're right. I
straight up forgot that he had like contact lenses, and it was weird.
Huh. I mean, I kind of like that idea where like if the Kree are gonna look human, they at least have some kind of eye contact shit going on if they're not blue skinned. Like that's kind of interesting. But yeah, Jan Rog is honestly he's just kind of. Yeah, he's just kind of boring. But to be fair, I'm going to be honest, I don't blame him for ending up that way because not only there was actually a deleted scene with him talking to what looks like himself with the high evolutionary or not high evolutionary, supreme intelligence. Like when it does the AI like visualization of the person they want to speak to. There's a deleted scene where he like talks to the Supreme Intelligence and it looks like him or like a family member of his or a twin or something. And it adds a little bit of intrigue, but that's a deleted scene. And what we get in the movie is like Laud's trying, but the script just doesn't give him anything interesting. And I sadly don't blame the movie because I'm going to say it. I've looked into like Captain Marvel's villains in the comics. Most of them are either Skrulls, threats that people like the Avengers or Fantastic Four all take on, like Thanos, Annihilus, the heavy hitters, or just maybe a random cosmic character you've never heard of. And that's it. Like, I think the most interesting, like, non-cosmic character is Karla Sofin, aka Moonstone. And she's basically just a Masters of Evil Captain Marvel who can phase. So it's like her comic villain gallery is pretty shallow. So I don't blame Jan Rog for ending up mid, but it's like they could have added something.
I'd say he's just a nothing character. There's nothing to say about him.
Yeah, I don't think he's like offensive enough to like bottom of wasted potential. Yeah. I think fits.
He annoys me because it's like with Caecilius, because Jude Law is such a great actor and they wasted him.
But at least Caecilius got to have like an interesting conversation with Strange, whereas here, aside from like the moment where his ass gets kicked at the end, I did like that moment where it's, on the one hand, it's kind of unsatisfying from a narrative conceptually, because it's like Carol doesn't beat him in hand-to-hand combat like at the beginning of the movie, but on the other hand, he was tried to, you know, kill a family of Skrulls, so it is funny that she just blasts his ass into the rocks. I did like that, but he's just, they don't do enough with him, I don't think.
Honestly, I think for the more like superfluous villains, we may have to just straight up like not skip them, but just be really quick, because we're like 2 hours in, and I think we're gonna be here till like midnight. I
don't want to be I don't want to be here till past 10, so we can actually speed up a little bit.
We can like for 2014 Thanos, I'd like to spend like a minute on him, but for the rest of them, like we may have to just like, for some of the smaller ones, we may just need to just like
I will say, when it comes to the smaller ones, I have words for Death Dealer, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
So Thanos,
I got what they were going for. There's a reason people were disappointed by this one.
I did not like. I'm not a fan of 2014 Thanos.
He was a decent physical threat, but his character was just nowhere near as interesting.
I genuinely don't understand why they reverted him as a kid. Because I understand that Thanos died in the opening, and I understand why they needed that 2014 Thanos, because he had far more resources, and the current day Thanos was just
basically gave up on it after the snap. So
and that he had no more resources, essentially. Like, I'm sure the sanctuary, I think, will actually, I don't think they ever explained what happened to the sanctuary, but it would make sense that you would need to use 2014 Thanos. But then I'm like, at least make up some excuse for him to have his memories back, so we at least have that connection to the characters. Like, you can make some bullshit excuse, like if he touches the Pym particles, it like messes with his memory.
To be
and
fair,
then I like fast forwarded. Like, that would be stupid. But at least I'd be like, okay, well, at least we got classic Thanos back.
I did like the scene where he's going through Nebula's memories and he sees his own death, and he's not horrified by it. He's just like, and that is destiny fulfilled. Like, I thought that's the thing with 2014 Thanos. I can't call him awful dookie by this tier list language.
I wouldn't even.
I'd say he's mid or wasted potential.
I'm gonna put him at the top of wasted potential, because they could have done so many stupid ways to bring him back, but
he has his moments, but he's just not as good.
Yeah, I felt nothing for a majority of Endgame's final battle until like the portal scene. Actually, no, that was when Cap lifted Mjolnir. That was on board. Yeah,
that was when I lost my fucking mind.
Because
I got the fucking pop for it. I got the damn. Oh shit! Whoops.
But I don't know. I wasn't a fan. Like, I just didn't buy that. Like, this is what we've been building towards, a villain who has no connection to the characters. Like,
right. It felt like backtracking, basically. There we go. There's the fucker. Now we can have a comic fight. There we go.
Mysterio. Next up.
Okay. So Mysterio. Yeah, I like Mysterio. His plan is kind of stupid when you think about it, but I don't really care, because there's so much. Honestly, the only thing I don't like Mysterio about is like all the Edith drone stuff. For me, is the worst part of Far From Home, because it just, I get why they did it, but a part of me just feels like, why couldn't he just have built drones for years and used them for his hologram shit? Like, the whole like Edith glasses thing, it's tough because it's baked into the narrative of Far From Home, so it's kind of hard to remove, and it does lead to some good moments, but just the mere existence of it, I'm just like, okay.
I just don't like that, like, basically, Spider-Man has, like, an infinite amount of villains, and there's so much you can do, at least with his, like, with combat scenes and inventive forms of, like, making a combat scene, and it's like, the best thing you could have thought of was just he fights a lot of drones. Like, it felt very uninspired. I will say, that final action scene with the Peter Tingle is amazing.
Yes, I love that shot so much. That whole sequence is, I was on like cloud nine in the theater, but yeah. Also, there's just other things like, Tony, why did you have an army of drones and not use them during the Endgame fight? When the fuck did you find the time to make this shit? Like,
yeah, that is stupid.
And why would you give it to a teenager? Like, why Spider-Man? Why not Rhodey? You know, your best friend.
Give it to Rhodey.
He's a military man. Like, why? Like, the Edith gag is cute. I agree. And I get why Mysterio needed the drones, but it just annoys me. I love Far From Home, but that stuff annoys me. But yeah, I think Mysterio works really well. I love Jake Gyllenhaal. The costume is peak. The CGI is great, too. Like, I love the way they did the fishbowl and, the illusion sequence. Jesus Christ.
I love that illusion sequence.
Apparently, it took like 9 months to make. And it shows. Like, that's insane. Okay, moving on. Hayward.
I'm not even gonna waste time with him. I'm just putting him in.
Yep. He completely changes character and sucks. Like,
I like how they try to villainize this character when technically he's in the right. And they basically revert any basically they try to like insist to you that he's the villain when he just tries to open fire on Wanda's kids when he realistically has no reason to do so.
I remember this. There was a joke from the Honest trailer for Black Panther where they're talking about Killmonger and how good he is, and they're like, "Oh no, I'm not used to this much agency in a Marvel villain. Have him choke an old lady so I know who the bad guy is." That's what they did with Hayward.
Was never interesting in the first place because they never treated him as such. He was just an obstacle, and they try to villainize him when technically he's
honestly,
right.
It's like, it would take a while to explain how I do it, but I just wish they replaced him with Grim Reaper, the Marvel Comics villain. It would take me too long to explain, but all you need to know is...
I would have just erased him entirely from the story because honestly, the subplot in WandaVision was like the worst part of the
It was definitely the most boring stuff. Like, the Hex was just so much more engaging. And when it wasn't following like Monica or anything, it just wasn't engaging outside the Hex really. So yeah, Hayward sucks. Okay, Agatha.
I haven't watched Agatha, so
in WandaVision, she's a bit of a confusing character, and the story clearly has mixed opinions on her. I'm gonna say this: she is really great. I'm gonna put Agatha in really great. The show does a really good job by her, and I have to say this: they make Agatha sympathetic in the show, but she's still a villain. Like she's a bitch in that show. They make it clear she is a murderer and a sociopath obsessed with death and a selfish bitch. It's so interesting because the villain is the main character and the hero is the side character in the show. And like there's stuff you learn about her with her attitude and the way she acts, and it almost like makes the stuff in WandaVision retroactively better. So I'm going to say she's really great. I know you haven't seen the show, but I
was going to put her in really great regardless of Agatha. I really like her in WandaVision. I think
she's very fun, and Catherine Hahn is just great in the role. It's so good. Oh God! But to contrast, we go from a great villain to Flag Smasher Carly Morgenthau.
I hate Carly Morgenthau so much. I don't even want to talk about her.
She's just wasted. The show clearly wanted to make her the good guy, but then they had to have her blow shit up to be the bad guy, which is totally not problematic since she's basically a refugee. But hey, at least they won't make that same mistake again. Wait, what about Secret Invasion? Anyway,
So John Walker is weird because if we're judging him solely on like the
villain, I think he's not great as a villain. I think he's not great, but I love his character. Honestly,
which is I think if we're judging him on like the first like 4 episodes or like 4.5 episodes, he's like up here. But when you include the finale, he's like,
yeah.
I really hate how they handled his character.
And even with the first 4 episodes, I have to say, John Walker is one of those characters that's really disappointing because the show I think the show was smart to present him as a genuinely well-meaning guy, but he has so much trauma that he cannot handle being the stress of Captain America. And I saw this point out in a video essay. Falcon and the Winter Soldier as a show, it clearly wants to talk about military radicalization, how the army like hypes people up like Isaiah and John and Lamar and like, hey, join the army, your life will be better. And then they hang them out to dry when they make one public mistake, even though they probably do worse shit in private. And then, you know, there's radicalization elements with Carly as well. The show clearly wanted to have that kind of messaging, but it feels like it can't do that either because of its stupid runtime or because Marvel Studios has connections with the US military. Like they've had input from them on some stuff and taken money from them. So it feels like they can't criticize their government too much beyond the damn do better speech, which is a whole other story that I'm not, again, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I love it as much as I hate it. Last I checked, I got to rewatch it. I love it as much as I
remember nothing from that show except for Zemo.
For every good thing they do, like Zemo, there's something really stupid they do, like Carly. So
I literally remember nothing from that show. I don't have an opinion on it except for Zemo. I think it's like the most bland Marvel project I think they've ever made. Legitimately, I don't want to talk about it because I don't remember anything from it. Like Zemo's the only thing I have.
I don't agree with it being bland, but I see your point. Yeah, it is a show that like I have had no like drive to rewatch it, which is weird because I loved it when it was airing. But yeah,
I want to put John in wasted potential, but not like in the sense that these other characters were wasted.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I love John Walker's character. I think he's a great character in the show. It's just as a villain, I'll like that's the thing. The whole like debate with him cutting up like killing the guy is really frustrating.
So much. He was a perfect character up until that moment. It was literally like end of episode 4. He was like, and then episode 6, they ruined.
And also episode 5, the fight with him and like Falcon and Bucky in the warehouse. That fight like fills me with such bittersweet like. Because it looks good. I like the action. The CGI is flawless. The lighting is really pretty in some of those shots, especially in the shot like after where Bucky has the shield and then gives it to Sam. I love what they did with the look of it. And narratively, this makes sense. But the problem is they don't make John enough of an asshole before then to make it feel justified to do it, I'd say. And on top of that, it's also kind of fucked when you remember, Falcons makes a point in the show trying to reason with Carly, like the whole, okay, I've counseled soldiers dealing with trauma. Okay, this is my wheelhouse. And then you have John,
He's soldier, like, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you.
Whose friend was just fucking murdered by all accounts, like a misguided terrorist. And instead of consoling him, their instant response is to like try and beat the fuck out of him. It's like
they do like.
I mean, you try to negotiate
more of a break than he gives John Walker. When I would argue they're both equally bad people.
It's so man. Again, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, for every good thing it does, I like, it frustrates me. So yeah, John, I love his character, but as an actual villain, I agree, wasted potential.
I think I only included him as just because I think he would have made for an excellent final villain. Like Carly should have just been removed entirely, and Zemo should have been the main villain. And then by the end, they pull the rug out, and John Walker is actually the main villain. Like, I would have preferred that, honestly.
Yeah, and then there's ways to do that with like the U.S. agent stuff in the comics to make it work out, and maybe even at the end, even if John is still a bad dude, he at least, because that's part of his thing in the comics, he becomes Captain America for a bit, but does something horrible that makes him give up the shield, but he still respects Captain America enough to know and be like, oh yeah, I fucked up, I don't deserve this. And I think that would have been interesting had they leaned into that and made him more villainous while still having him respect the mantle and be like, no, I don't deserve this, even though I haven't really changed. But
yeah, it's just
Anyway, okay, Kingpin, but we're not technically. Oh, this is tough.
Okay, so here's the thing: for Kingpin, we're gonna make an exception. We'll include the continuity for the Netflix shows.
Okay, so
with that in mind, I think from what I've seen in the Daredevil show, if we were to just include Kingpin just by the merits of the Daredevil show, he's like, oh no, not down there. He's like up here.
Oh yeah, he's goated in the Daredevil show, but we also have Hawkeye and Echo.
When you bring Hawkeye and Echo in, he's like down here.
Yeah, I like and since it's part of we're folding in the MCU stuff, I think that's completely fair. I like what they did with him in Echo. I'll say this: I liked the Kingpin stuff in Echo, especially that weird. Okay, I don't know how to feel about Echo's weird like power where she's like able to get in his head. That was odd, but I liked what they did with it, even though the power itself was odd. Like the scene of him, like
the one scene where they were going out for ice cream when Maya was like a little baby, and she was being harassed by the ice cream vendor, like because I forgot if it was because of her ethnicity or if it was because of her. I think it was because of her hearing.
Yeah, she was trying to communicate like she wanted ice cream, but he's like, I can't understand you. Like, get out of here, being an asshole. And then Kingpin
Wilson Fisk just beats the shit out of the guy. And
yeah,
I love that scene because it is like, it's literally just the perfect amount of like misguided compassion and just brutality that I liked in the Daredevil show, but they never really fully matched that. I also like when he gets Maya an interpreter, and it ends with him executing that interpreter because obviously she knows everything now because he was doing all the sign language and she now knows all of Kingpin's secrets. So after he translates everything for Maya, he not mercy kills her, but he just straight up executes her.
Yeah,
I thought that was also a really well made sequence because you never see it, you only hear it, and it's really upsetting.
It's very it's one of the most upsetting. It's one of the only times in Echo, I think, where it's like upsettingness matched the Netflix shows. Because while I think Echo was good, it definitely they overshot. I think those trailers were so good, it built up the hype of the tension a little too much.
Bro, people were saying Echo was gonna be like the MCU's Andor, which in hindsight is very funny because no one talks about Echo anymore. Like people forgot Echo came out,
right? Like, and when people do talk about it, they don't like it, unfortunately. And I don't mean like the grifters, well, even though they're fucking annoying and racist. I also just mean like the people who there's people who saw the show and they were just disappointed by it.
Echo came out in like April, right? Wait. Echo.
Last year, actually, in January. It was last year.
No, you're joking. Wait.
No, I swear it was in January.
It's over a year old?
Yeah.
What? Echo came out over a year ago?
It's time,
dude,
man.
People, I forgot this show came out. I thought it came out like
I didn't, and I didn't do shit for when it turned over a year old. Like that, it's so disappointing.
Dude, that show was like 5 episodes, and the first episode was like half flashbacks that we've already seen content.
That show got done dirty. How do you get Better Call Saul writers for a Daredevil adjacent Marvel show?
No, you're kidding. The writers for that weren't from Better Call Saul.
I think there were like Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul writers on the show, actually. Either that or Daredevil writers. One of the two. So I heard like conflicting reports about it. But
that's really sad.
That's so disappointing. And again, I like the show. I think it's good. So I don't want to be against it, but I feel like it just there's something up with
everything that happened in Echo, and I don't want to watch it again. I don't think anyone watched it.
By that, like me and my brother, we watched it and we somehow didn't. Like that's what the show feels like. It's just.
I mean, I'm gonna put Echo above Claw, but like then you gotta account for him and Hawkeye, which was just really weird. But
yeah, I don't even hate what they did with him and Hawkeye, but like there were some choices where I'm like, okay, interesting.
I don't know. There's
Drake.
Hawkeye had too much. Literally.
Yeah.
All right.
I think Hawkeye. Dreykov.
We get literally. I don't even want to talk about these villains. I don't we don't even have to talk about them.
What more even needs to be said about Taskmaster? And I think Dreykov's worse than Taskmaster. So it's
Dreykov may be the worst MCU villain. I'm gonna put Taskmaster in Wasted Potential because at least like Taskmaster does stuff.
Yeah, and there was potential with like the character, even if it was a departure from the comics. There was potential for what they were going for with Antonia. They just forgot to make her a character.
Yeah, we could just skip those.
All right,
we don't even need to waste time on them.
Okay, so Wenwu.
We're just
Wenwu. I think he's
gonna pop right up there.
I
know you really like Wenwu.
Yeah, I do enjoy Wenwu a lot. I do have my qualms with how the Ten Rings lore was handled in Shang-Chi, in contrast with what we know about it from the early MCU stuff. I have to sit and reevaluate a lot of it. But I do like what they went with for Wenwu. And I say this as somebody with like, it's funny because I have friends that unironically like really don't like Shang-Chi. Like I have some friends from Twitter that don't like that movie or think Wenwu is overrated. I'll admit I don't love Wenwu as much as everybody else. He's not my favorite Marvel villain, but he works very well. Tony Leung deserved more screen time, I think. That's really what just holds it back for me. I wish we got to focus. I wish the movie cut back a little more on some of its like multiple plot threads and just focused a little bit more on Wenwu and his connection to his kids. Because while I think
there was a little too much going on in that movie.
Yeah, and it feels like there was at least like 2 movies worth of material with like Talo and the dragon stuff, even though I do like it. But yeah, I think Wenwu works for what they're going for. I love Tony Leung's performance. His fight scenes are really good. I love by the way, whoever thought of making the 10 rings the Hung Gar like kung fu arm rings and using them like weapons, it's a departure from the comics, but it's really cool. And I love the way I
like it that he uses them as like maces sometimes.
Fucking like using them as whips and to grab stuff. They got creative with they were overpowered as fuck, but they got creative with the 10 ring visuals. I really appreciated that, which is a good way to balance out the fact that you're not doing the elemental finger rings. Okay, but Razor Fist, I agree, missed potential. There's deleted scenes of his character that are so much more interesting than what's in the final movie.
My issue with Death Dealer and Razor Fist is that they serve the same purpose as secondary antagonists, and I think they would have worked so much better if they just melded them into one.
And let me just rant about Death Dealer for a second. Movie?
You have the floor.
Okay, my camera's loading on the thing. I don't know what's up with that, but okay, there we go. Okay, so hey, Shang-Chi, what the fuck were you thinking with this character? You took a character who, by all accounts, is a nobody from the comics, barely a footnote antagonist, if he even has any personality. But you decided, okay, we're going to take this interesting design. We're going to try something new with it. You make this badass new design with an interesting aesthetic. You lean into like Chinese theater for the mask and give him like interesting side weapons as opposed to just generic swords or knives from the comics. You have a great color scheme. You have this really fun, interesting fight scene in the fucking scaffolding between him and Shang-Chi, where we get flashbacks intercut that show his relationship to Death Dealer without any words, that shows like the toxic student-teacher rivalry the two had together. You almost have Shang-Chi like kill him for that. And there's so much potential to expand upon these characters and learn more about them, even if it's all visual. And then you just have some fucking CGI bat demon suck his soul out, and that's it? Like, are you fucking kidding me? I was so disappointed by Death Dealer. He looked so goddamn cool in the trailers. The fight scene with him earlier in the movie was so fun. And then by the end of the movie, they just fucking kill him off in Talo.
He died as like a joke.
Right. Like, it just pisses me off so much the way they handled this character. Like, I get it. We needed to establish the threat of the soul-eating Dweller in Darkness babies. Fine. You could have done that with...
literally anyone could have died.
Honestly, wouldn't it have made more sense if, like, they do the same joke, but then it's a 10 Rings agent that gets it, and then instead of Razor Fist being like, we should work together, Death Dealer gets his first line, like, we should work together.
That would have been that would actually be funny. I kind of like.
And then he could get like fucking red energy size, like with the dragon scales and stuff. Like, oh god damn it! There's so much cool stuff they could have done with Death Dealer.
They should have just deleted Razor Fist, and Death Dealer should have just taken his place.
Right,
he looks infinitely cooler.
Yeah,
I think they have really cool action scenes. Like Razor Fist and Death Dealer have some of the coolest action scenes They have, honestly, I would say, excluding like Thanos, Wenwu, obviously, because they're from the same movie.
I like the Crossbones fight. That was a fun one.
I would say like Crossbones, Mysterio, and Thanos. They have the coolest fights.
They have some of the most interesting fights out of any villain here, for sure. So it's just, I hate the way
Endgame Thanos actually had a really cool fight. I like that.
That's true, yeah. But yeah, I hate how wasted he was. But yeah,
if we're talking
anyway,
like just hand-to-hand combat, they had the best action scene.
Anyway, okay, Icarus.
My nemesis.
I'm gonna say Icarus is really great.
Okay.
So we'll compromise.
I was gonna put him in like wasted potential or mid. I'll put him in. We can meet in the middle and put him in good.
Okay.
But
I'll accept it. I'll hold back my Eternals dick sucking, and then
I know you love Icarus. My issue with Icarus is that the twist with him, I feel like we should have known way earlier that he killed Ajax. Similar to how we see that Omni-Man killed the Guardians of the Globe and Invincible, but we don't know why yet. So we're left guessing. So I think if in Eternals we find out that Icarus killed Ajax way earlier on, in the whole movie we're left guessing as to why he did it. And then at the end, the twist is that he knew the whole time about the I almost said Celestials, but the
emergence with Tiamat in the core of the Earth.
If he knew, I think that would have made him a more infinitely better character, because it basically goes from we don't know what happens, we get the twist that Icarus is evil, and then it immediately goes into the final battle with like almost no time to like sit with that twist.
I think there is at least I think there is a tiny bit of time to sit, because there is at least like the characters formulating a plan, and then I do like the quick moment before the final fight with him and Sprite sitting together and watching like the volcano. But I do see your point. Yeah, I'm fine with either way. I think either option works, but I do understand why you'd find that more interesting.
Because the thing is, on paper, he has a really cool story. I just don't like the execution at all.
I will say, I love his fight scenes. This is probably my favorite take on like the Superman but not Superman powers. I like the way they visualized his cosmic energy beams while making them look different from Cyclops and stuff. And I think, there's for me Icarus is one of the best MCU villains, but obviously we conflict on that. And you know what, we might as well get this out of the way. So Crow, the main deviant, a character I only know the name of because I know the toys of the movie, and they never said it in the movie. Okay, so I agree that Crow is easily one of the weakest parts of the movie. And it's not hard to see why he ends up toward the bottom of a lot of MCU villain lists, because most people tend to forget he's even there. And I agree that's a problem. What I will say, I think Crow is at least a little better than people give him credit for, and he's at least important for Thena's story. And a lot of what they do with Crow that works for me is how he relates to the wider plot of just enough little undercurrents of intrigue of how the Deviants and Eternals are both created by Arashim, and how one thing I do really like about Crow, when he kills Gilgamesh and then finally evolves to look more humanoid, he finally like assesses like Ajax's memories and can speak English and is like, all those worlds wiped out by the Celestials, and then he thinks of his own kind and he's like, we were just trying to survive, because the Deviants are basically prehistoric animals. They're viney like cosmic versions of prehistoric animals. There's even a deleted scene where Sprite uses her illusions in a museum while looking at a saber-toothed tiger skull. She uses her illusions for a second to make a deviant face, implying that skull belonged to a deviant she killed or saw die or something. But then when he gains human enough consciousness, he's like, I understand Eternals, but also you tried to massacre my people, and I'm not just going to forgive that, so I will kill you. I think I actually quite liked that as motivation, because even though Crow understands the Eternals as a creation of Arashim, he's still not going to forgive and forget. And I find that interesting for his character. I also like how he was manipulative toward Thena, like him using, like him taking advantage of her her malweary state where she like could start forgetting stuff or blank out, and using like pretending to be Gilgamesh was, I think, one of the most like impactful scenes in the movie for me. So I understand why people don't.
I feel like there was really no reason for him to gain sentience. Like after Gilgamesh dies, you can really remove him, and not much would change aside from the conclusion of Thena's arc, which honestly, in my opinion, was also poorly handled and kind of superfluous. Like my issue with Eternals is that there are just way too many characters.
It is a very bloated movie for sure.
I think it would have worked so much better if there was, honestly, Thena would have been a really great main character, because Cersei, to me at least, was just nothing.
I like Cersei, but yeah, she's definitely nowhere near as interesting as most of the other characters.
Because it's just, I can't even pin down like any of her personality traits aside from she likes Instagram, I guess. Like that's literally all I remember.
Yeah, it's still a better role for Gemma Chan than her thankless Star Force role in Captain Marvel. But
I forgot that she was in.
Yeah, they recast her from like Minerva to I can't believe I know that fucking character's name when they barely do jack shit with her. Then again, you know the names of the Knights of Ren. So
I do know the names of the Knights of Ren.
Anyway, but yeah, so how about we compromise you? I assume you're gonna put like wasted potential, right? I was just gonna say
put him in the bottom one.
Well, how about we compromise?
What were you gonna put him in?
I was gonna put him in good or mid.
Okay. So we can meet in the middle and put him in mid. It's okay.
Yeah. I will say I do think it would have been more interesting if they had Crow, they saved him for later, like have him gain sentience, but after he says like vows to kill them, that's like sequel setup. I think that would have been a little more interesting, and then they could lean into it. But I still like what they did with him in the movie. And honestly, I have to say the Eternals is a mostly very pretty looking movie to me. The coloring does not do him justice. There's a lot of shots where he looks gray, but he's got like very nice earthy greens and blacks and reds to his color designs. And the CGI itself looks mostly good. Like there's some shots where he interacts with stuff, and his monster form looks great. I love that they made him look like basically a cave bear who's in charge of like the wolves and the pterodactyls and the bats and shit. So I think visually there's a lot more to the deviants I wish people would give credit for, but I get why people harp on them as like forgettable. Okay, now we got the No Way Home villains.
We got a lightning round these Spider-Man villains, because I think most people know. I know you have a lot to say about Sandman, but the rest
I just want to like at least be like a good punch in at him. But yeah, Green Goblin's goated.
Green Goblin, are we gonna put in goated?
Yeah, I think it's where I love him in No Way Home.
Honestly, I'm not gonna put him above Thanos, but I'm gonna put him above Zemo.
I think that's fine. Yeah.
We get honestly for you, I'll put him below Zemo.
Okay, but yeah, I love him in No Way Home though.
Yeah, I know, but I
Doc Ock, he's good in No Way Home. He's nowhere near as good as Spider-Man 2, so it's kind of tough. Do we count the Spider-Man 2 continuity in this instance?
Yeah. For this, we're going to be counting the continuity of the original.
Okay, so yeah, with that in mind, he's great, but I'm going
to put him. He's with like the really good. He's there with like Mysterio and Agatha in the sense that it's like he's not that deep, but he's just very fun to watch.
Yeah. Okay.
But Lizard. He is the best of those three.
Okay, Lizard. I think wasted.
I hated Lizard in Amazing Spider-Man, but I think he's actually kind of okay.
I think, yeah, he's mid. He's just kind of. He's maybe just there for. Yeah. Okay,
voice. But
yeah, the voice is fun.
Yeah.
Electro, I think is mid. Or good.
Really?
Either works. I think I've grown to appreciate what they were trying to do with him in Amazing Spider-Man, and I love his fucking theme. His theme is amazing from that movie, which makes sense because it's Hans Zimmer. But he was at least fun.
I hated him in Amazing Spider-Man 2. I really liked him in No Way Home. They did a good job making him at least making him.
I like we see a lot more confident version of him, because if you remember in TASM 2, he like starts so closeted and nerdy. So in this version, he's more outspoken, and that's kind of
he's like he thinks Spider-Man's like his husband, and that
I fucking love the joke of as well. Just sidebar with No Way Home, I love the joke of the you do a lot of good, you help a lot of people, Let's just go be black.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I love how like Peter isn't even like taken aback. He's like, "What are you talking about?" He's just like, "I'm sorry." Like it's so
and it's such a cute way to reference Miles as well. Like there's got to be a black Spider-Man out there somewhere.
Dude, when he said that, my theater, I felt the earth shake. Everyone was hogging because people immediately were like, "He's talking about Miles." We were freaking out.
And that got a big smile on my face too. Okay, right. Sandman, I like him in Spider-Man 3. He was so fucking pointless in No Way Home. I don't know why they didn't just replace him with Venom. Like I just
legit, I don't understand why they brought Venom in No Way Home.
Yeah, because that's the funny thing. No Way Home clearly tried to do a Sinister Six. They couldn't even get 6. They just had 5. Venom was in the credits, and he just got sent right back.
One of the people in my theater, like halfway through the movie, just shouted out loud, "Where's Venom?"
Yeah, I agree.
People just started laughing because it was like, we didn't even realize that Venom was gone.
Yeah, like I have to say, if we were not considering Spider-Man 3 and we were just going off No Way Home, I'd put Sandman either in like bottom of wasted potential or top of awful because I hated how pointless like his motivation is so fucking inconsistent in that movie. He's like, I just want to go home, and then by the climax, he's like, Marco, what are you doing? He just says, I don't care, and it's like. What?
I guess it's just
what happened?
I always interpreted it as he didn't have faith that the Spideys would be able to, because they make it clear in that scene that he's not working with Electro and Lizard. He just wants to get the box and go home. And then there's even a line that's really fast where Electro says, "Sorry, Sandman, but no one's going home today."
Okay, that's an interesting way to interpret it. I guess, yeah.
As if to insinuate that Electro and Sandman are not working together, even if there is that poster shot of the 3 villains like grouping up together, which like out of context, like it does look like they're working together, but in reality, it is just them lining up to, which makes sense, but it just is weird to me because it's like, I think if you guys went up against Electro and Lizard, you can easily
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like Lizard easily because Lizard's just a big guy,
right?
And Electro, I guess, would really issues. But like the Electro in one Spider-Man just beat him, and I get it. He's more powerful with the arc reactor, so I think maybe Sandman is like, my best chance is to just grab the box on my own and leave.
Really, the only
it's weird.
Really, the only way Electro could pose a threat is if the heat of his electricity like turns his sand to glass. But that's it. Like but yeah. So the No Way Home villains, there's like a good like spectrum of I enjoy this or what the fuck are you doing here? I'd say. Okay. Here's an interesting.
What would you put him in? Like with
I'm gonna be nice and say mid because I like him in Spider-Man 3. But if it wasn't for that, he'd be in either of the bottom 2 tiers.
Okay, I was gonna put him in good, so we'll just round down. We'll put him in mid. I'm completely okay with that because I'm not.
Oh, okay. Sorry, you can go ahead.
We're going on to Harrow.
Yeah, I think Harrow's good. He just needed more time and a backstory. A full backstory, honestly.
I think it's just my bias because I like Ethan Hawke, but
oh no, I like him too. Yeah, I really enjoyed Harrow.
I really like Harrow. I think he doesn't even feel like an MCU villain to me. He just feels like some guy. And I don't mean that as an insult.
Which is so funny because that's what he is in the comics. You know what's insane, right? A lot of people shit on the Moon Knight show for this decision, and I get why. But with Harrow, I think it's kind of amazing that they literally, dude, I'm not even fucking making this up. Arthur Harrow appears in one Moon Knight comic, and he's a mad scientist that doesn't even interact with Moon Knight beyond glancing at him from across a hall. That's literally their entire interaction in the comics. Nowhere else. And yet they were able to make this fucking death cultist villain out of him that was actually interesting. Granted, I don't know why they didn't just do... There's another character called Sun King who's kind of a similar thing, and he's the avatar of Ra, and he's got like fire powers and stuff. I don't know why they didn't just do that. That probably would have made more sense. But props to them for they literally were just like, okay, what's the funniest possible option we could make like a terrifying or like creepy villain out of? Just a complete fucking nobody, even by comic standards, and just made this really interesting character out of it. I think that's so insane.
I just think he's very charismatic. I loved him in the second episode.
Yes, 100%.
He just is like, it's really great to see the community, because even though they are like a cult, they feel like a family, and that's something I like when with media where they I'm stuttering. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I stutter all the time.
They basically find a way to make a cult endearing and likable, while still pointing out their flaws. Like, it's what, like, I haven't seen Midsummer, but I heard they do something similar to that. The Mandalorian does a fairly good job at it at first, and then in the third season, they start to kind of forget that the cult shouldn't be endorsed, but they do a good job of making the Children of the Watch feel like a family. But they do that with Harrow's group as well. They feel like a tightly knit family who just happen to be incredibly misguided.
And I loved the visual of like the scale tattoo on his arm, the two-headed crocodile staff. Like, they did a good job mixing the Amit stuff visually with the character. And I love, episode 2 especially. My favorite scene with him is still that conversation he has with Steven about, like, you know, a diseased limb needs to be amputated so the body can survive. And it's like, but a child isn't a diseased limb. Like, are you all into that? Killing children.
I love Steven is such a great character.
Yeah, dude. I will go up to fucking bat. I want to make a video essay about how great Steven is someday. I'm saying this now to anybody who's watching this. Moon Knight fans, you have every right to be disappointed by the show if you felt it was a bad adaptation, but I don't give a fuck. I'm dying on this hill. Stephen Grant's one of the best new characters introduced in Phase 4, and I will always defend him.
Moon Knight is literally probably my favorite new character next to like Kate Bishop.
He's so far up there. One more pop. I liked him so much that I've been asking this for a while. I got the guy. I got the pop. I got it for Christmas. I love him so much.
I don't collect Marvel Legends figures just because they're personally not for me. I don't
collect them either. They're really like they're cool, but I don't know what to do with the pieces most of the time. I only have like 2 of them.
I like Black Series figures, but I don't like Marvel Legends because I feel like they don't do a good job of like making the like figures like articulate properly, because like the joints are like on the hips and they're just like giant gaping lines that just make the figures look awkward. But the Marvel Legends Moon Knight figure, I have come so close to getting because it looks
incredible.
The Moon Knight costume may be like my favorite MCU costume.
It's so fucking great, and it's both a perfect like translation of the comics, but they also add in all the text, like the detailing on the jacket, and like the fucking hieroglyphic staff pattern. Like, that's so cool. I love.
And I like how he almost looks like a mummy, because that's not what he looks like in the comics. And I wasn't sure what to think of it at first, but in when it's moving, it looks.
It's so pretty, and
my only issue is that it's mostly CGI. I wish it was practical, but
there was a practical suit. They did have a practical suit.
They just didn't use it a lot, which was weird.
Right, and that's one thing I gotta say. I know why people are mixed on Moon Knight a lot of times, but I have to say, if there's one thing that can't be denied about the Moon Knight show, is the fucking insane amount of attention to detail they put into that stuff. Like, the set designers literally for episode 3 when they're in Karachi, they fucking made like 3 blocks of Karachi to film. Like, they just recreated 3 blocks of Karachi in like fucking London or something. That's insane.
So Moon Knight's great.
Yeah, I know the show got. Yeah, I know the show got like mixed reception with its Jewish rep. I understand why, but the Egyptian stuff, from all accounts, like the representation of Egyptian culture was like top notch and perfect for a lot of people. So
Stephen, Mark, Layla, and Harrow are 4 of the best new characters.
I can't wait. I can't wait for them to come back.
They better be in. Well, Harrow obviously won't be because he's dead. But
I better see them in fucking Midnight Suns, man. It's basically, we know it's coming.
They better be in Doomsday. I'm not gonna watch Doomsday if they're not in it.
Even
because they're the only characters at this point that I care about. Everyone is gone. We aren't getting any more Guardians. I guess Spider-Man, but I'm kind of getting a little sick of Spider-Man at this point because he's everywhere. Like, Moon Knight and Kate Bishop are like the only characters I care about. But, okay, so we just we're gonna put him in good?
Yeah, I agree. I think our Harrow's good. I just needed a little bit of backstory from him. They kept alluding to it, but they don't give it much to him. If he had backstory, I'd put him in really great. But yeah, I think good works. Okay, Najma.
I legit forgot the name of this character. I had to look up when I was getting the images for this tier list. I had to look up Miss Marvel villain.
Yeah, and I think put her in. I'm gonna say it. Awful bad Dookie. I'm just gonna get it out there.
She's probably the worst.
She might be actually because like Miss Marvel is an almost perfect Disney Plus show, but everything they do with the clandestines that isn't the time traveling stuff with the partition and the grandmother, everything with the clandestines except for that stuff just drags it down. So I saw a great video, a retrospective about Miss Marvel. Season 1 feels like 2 seasons of the show happening at the same time. Season 1 is the low stakes Jersey stuff, and then season 2 is the clandestine Newargin Karachi stuff with red daggers and all that.
I forgot this character's motivation. I forgot what her plan. I don't remember what.
She literally, she wanted to get the clandestines home to their dimension after being stuck on Earth for a while, but when Kamala didn't want to give it to them too early, she just, snapped into full, we'll kill him for the Bengal mode. It's like, wow, okay, sure, whatever.
I don't remember that show. I remember the first 2 episodes coincided with Kenobi, and that's why it did so poorly, was because it went up against one of the most anticipated Disney Plus projects.
Yeah.
And it fumbled because of it, because everyone was tuning in for Kenobi, and nobody cared about Miss Marvel.
I will say Miss Marvel has one of the better Disney Plus finales, because it starts reverting back to the Jersey stuff, and I think that helps a lot with it.
Literally, 1, 2, and 6 would have made for, the perfect MCU movie.
Yeah, they could have made a whole movie. Honestly, it would make more sense to do her as a movie character, because then you have her introduction in the Marvels, so you don't have to explain the other Disney Plus show. It
literally would have been perfect.
That said, we all agree Iman Vellani's fucking perfect as Kamala Khan.
I really want to meet her. I literally just.
I know it'd be so cool to meet her, and that's the thing.
I just want to give her a hug and just say, "Girl, just keep doing what you're doing."
Yeah, and what's also fun is I actually read Miss Marvel comics before she was ever announced in the MCU. I liked this character all the way back in 2016 and 17 and stuff. So when they announced her show, I was so fucking hyped because I had read comics, and I'm like, yes, I'm ahead of the curve this time. Thank you. I'm so ready.
She's so cute. I love her.
And she's the best part of the Marvels for sure. I love, and she's so good.
I just wish the movie was about her, because then I just don't like Monica and Carol that much. It's just
I like what they tried with them, but
it's the epitome of hydrogen bomb versus coughing baby, where I just really prefer Kamala over the other 2 characters.
Yeah, my opinion on the MCU in 2023 was literally there's projects I like Guardians Volume 3 and Loki Season 2. There's projects I don't, Quantumania and Secret Invasion, and I'm and then it's oh yeah, and the Marvels. And then cut to the John
exists.
And I'm oh yeah, the Marvels, and then cut to the JonTron clip. Whatever the fuck that is. That's because the movie has sauce, but it goes about it in a weird way. Let's leave it at that.
It has the sauce, but it doesn't know how to spread the sauce.
That's probably a good way of looking at it.
I don't know what I said.
Anyway, okay, Titania from She. Thank you for including her, by the way. Not fucking.
I legit.
Luke.
I didn't know the name of that other character too, and I don't even know if he counts as a villain because he was in 1 episode.
If he was here, he would be at the bottom of the list. I think he might actually be my least favorite MCU villain. I fucking hate him.
I don't know his name.
I think it was I think his name was Luke. Yeah, and he's just that fucking dude who he worked for one joke where it's the montage of getting stood up by all the guys on her She-Hulk date or not vibing with any of them, but then he just kept coming back, and then they make him the villain at the end, and I'm just look, show. I appreciate that the show decided to take a stab at the right-wing grifting idiots, But the way they went about it in the finale was just like, could we please do literally, and can we please go about this a little differently? Anyway.
Titania is just the show exemplified. She's cute, but just really forgettable. Like,
I feel bad. Yeah, I feel bad for Jamila Jamil because I love her on The Good Place. She's so good as Tahani on that show, and she was clearly having so much fun with the marketing. Like, she went out in costume and spray painted She-Hulk promo stuff with Titania. She had this, like, she posted this picture to Twitter. It was like a fake Vogue magazine with her posing, and there was text that said, like, praying on this bitch's downfall every day. Like, she clearly had a lot of fun with this. Honestly, I kind of wish she was the twist villain. Like, I wish she just just took advantage of a bunch of incels just because she was a petty Reverse Flash kind of bitch toward She-Hulk. We still don't know why she attacked that.
Me, Barry.
Right.
I had to say these incels.
Also, one thing that also holds Titania back, by the way, remember how like the end of the first episode is the fight with her in the courtroom. First off, that's the worst part of the episode for me because the editing is fucking atrocious. But ignoring that, we still don't know why she attacked that courtroom. So we didn't even get an answer for that. So like they could have done something.
He just really hates drywall.
Yeah, so she's enjoyable for what they do with her, but they could have done more, so she's mid. Okay, here we go. Multiverse of Madness, Wanda.
Wanda's weird because I really like she's no, not up there, girl. I really like Wanda as a character, and I think her being the villain makes sense. It's just that the build up to her fall to the dark side was so abrupt.
The legwork with WandaVision got so messy at the end that it kind of holds it back. But what they do,
the plan was that she was going to turn good in the third Doctor Strange, and the second one was like the setup. But then they rushed it to say no, we'll just have her be the. I feel like that could have worked if WandaVision ended on a more sinister note.
Yeah, I think if they really committed to making
Wanda they try to make her an anti-hero, and I think if WandaVision ended in the sense that it was far more sinister, like this is Wanda's fall to the dark side, I get it, but I don't know. I'm just not a fan of Wanda's term. But I will say, if I suspend my disbelief and say, you know what, it's fine, this is how it's going to go, I do think Wanda is a really good antagonist.
Yeah, she's really fun in the movie. She's intimidating. Elizabeth Olsen, regardless of, the whitewashing, does a great job with the character.
They do a great job utilizing her powers, aside from, like, she shoots lasers vaguely.
It's so interesting because on the one hand, it completely fucks her magic system up and it raises a lot of like, why doesn't she just do this kind of questions? But it's so visually interesting as well at the same time that I can still have fun with it. So even though I'm asking those questions, I'm rocking with it.
I love her fighting the Illuminati is so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, just the what mouth line.
And then her just shredding Reed Richards and
the Black Bolt death is still like one of the most fucked things I've seen in the movies. Just the way they visualized that was disgusting.
I wish that was just the whole movie was just them just teetering the line of PG-13 and R.
Right. That being said, it's also the scene is also really funny when you remember that is the actor Anson Mount who played Black Bolt in the failed Inhumans show. So it's basically Marvel's like last like fuck you in particular to that whole experiment.
Combined with that and not making Kamala an Inhuman, Kevin Feige really hates Inhumans.
Which to be fair, Kamala was going to be a mutant. That was the original plan for the creator when they were making her in the comics. But because of Marvel Studios being petty and Fox bullshit with the X-Men, they wanted to build up the Inhumans more. But now they have the mutants back and it's all settled and it's so funny. Do
you want to put Wanda in good?
Yeah, I think she's good. I think she works as a villain. Yeah, it's the fall to get there is frustrating, but I like how they handled her in Multiverse Madness. Also, I do like that they commit to killing her. Agatha does not bring her back or anything. They do.
Oh, she does. I thought she came back to life.
She doesn't in Agatha. If she comes back to life, it's not there. But as far as anybody in Agatha knows, Wanda is dead. So they lean into that, and I kind of
that makes me feel a lot better. Okay.
Yeah, and I respect the fuck out of that.
I'm not going to move her up to great, but. Now she's like teetering the line. That's actually really cool. Okay.
Okay, good.
Because I always assumed that she was going to come back in Agatha, but I like that.
Right, yeah. Okay, so hot take. Okay, next up we have Gore from Love and Thunder. Listen, I know he's great in the comics. Hot fucking take. He's one of the best MCU villains. I kind of want to put him at the bottom of GOATed. I know that's a big ask, but I fucking love Gore in Love and Thunder.
I actually, because Gore is weird, because I really like the scene of them when they're like in black and white. I like that scene.
Yes, the Shadow War is awesome.
The axe, like that scene's really cool. But and I like the resolution. I just wish we got. It just is that Gore for me has such a lack of screen time.
That's his only problem, is that he lacks screen time, which is why I was about to put him like in really great before I said, like, it's saying I'm tempted for bottom of GOATed, but I can settle for really great or good because the lack of screen time, he just doesn't. I'm willing to compromise with you and say he's good.
I was gonna put him in good because I don't think he's overrated. I don't think he's wasted. I think on paper he's cool, and Christian Bale does a great job. It's just
I don't agree either. I think they used him very well. He just needed more screen time.
So I'm up to putting him at the bottom of really great.
I can accept that. Okay, Namor. Ooh, here we go.
I haven't watched Wakanda Forever in a long time. I remember liking it. I just straight up don't remember a lot of it. Like, that's
fair
not
enough.
me. I just don't recall, because I haven't seen it in a while. I remember loving Namor.
Namor is one of my favorite MCU villains. I love the way they adapted his character. I love that they actually worked. They didn't just make him Mayan for the sake of being like, oh, see, we're not Atlantean, we're not Aquaman. But they actually worked like the pain of Mayan colonialization and their culture of like the water god Jacques, and the Talokan is based on like the underworld of like Mictlan or something from like Mayan culture, and in terms of like vibe, and I think it's so like I love the way the Talokan feels like a real lived-in city when you explore it in the Colma Brisa sequence. What I do agree with him being in really great though, because what holds Namor back for me is his plan, when you really break it apart, doesn't make a lot of sense. Like at first it's like, okay, he gets the Wakandans to kill the scientists. It's a bit contrived that somehow, without the conch being blown, Atuma and Namora are able to find Riri like in Massachusetts or whatever in the water. It's a bit weird how they go about it, and then like his goals shift about like it's no longer about the scientist and trying to convince Shuri. So there's flaws with his plan, but I love what they did. Tenoch Huerta does a great job with the character. There were people when the trailer came out were fucking clowning on him for his physique, and I was like, are you shitting me? Really? Like, the dude is jacked. I don't know what people were like thinking back then. There were so many. It was so
Which
dumb.
Is funny because that actor turned out to be a really shitty human being.
Well, the thing, I think that was actually disproven. I think those allegations. I think those allegations. They were either I'm going to say that with a grain of salt, actually, because they were either disproven or they didn't go anywhere. Like, it just kind of popped up on Twitter out of nowhere, like Tenoch Huerta, bad person. It was like, oh shit, what? And we just kind of waited and nothing happened. And it's like,
was it like what happened with Rosario Dawson, where they said she assaulted, not she assaulted, but her mom assaulted like a trans woman?
I didn't hear about that. I didn't.
Oh, you didn't know that? That was why a lot of people hate Rosario Ahsoka.
Interesting. I thought it was that Rosario was being called transphobic. I did not hear about the mother part. Interesting.
No, people, because Rosario defended her mom, and that's why people were like, Rosario's transphobic. But then Rosario came out and said, I respect trans people, and I will fight for your rights. It's just that my mom didn't do this thing. And
so basically, like, someone threw out like a false allegation, and it shocked everybody for a second, but then it didn't really. I mean,
no, I don't think it happened, because the thing with, I can't speak for everyone, obviously, but in my personal experience, transphobes are really proud to be transphobic.
Right.
And I don't think if you were to approach someone and say, are you transphobic? I don't think they would say no if they really were. Because to them, it's not like being racist, because obviously to be being racist now, it's like a very like widely accepted wrong thing. So people would obviously lie now.
With transphobia, it's so much more complicated with like the way it gets wrapped up in politics and stuff.
People are still, and this is coming from someone who's non-binary, we're still trying to we're still trying to push transgender rights into mainstream media because it's still not widely accepted. Like most people who are open accept it, and it's generally pretty like it's basically like common sense to just accept trans people, but people aren't used to it yet. So I feel like
and they're clearly we know Disney is like fucking pissy about. I mean, I'm sure you saw the Moon Girl and Win or Lose news, how they cut like the trans episodes for those.
Yeah, and Dana Terrence indirectly.
And this is relevant. This is relevant because it is Marvel. Let me just say thank you, whoever leaked the Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur episode. I have pirated it and saved it on my computer. I will not let this amazing show go unfucking completed. Thank you, whoever did that.
But no, yeah, it may be similar to that with Namor's actor, where it was a false allegation.
But yeah, I love Namor, and dude, I have to say, if Namor shows up in Secret Wars, I cannot fucking wait to hear like the Talokan music again. I need to hear like because the way they worked in the score and they use like the Aztec death whistle noises for accompanying his character. So if I don't hear like the fucking dun 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 when he shows up and mix in those fucking like wow sounds, almost like a jaguar, it's like you're doing something wrong. Please, movie, let me hear.
I love Namor. I love Namor.
Man,
I'm gonna put him like next to like Dr. Octopus.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I love Namor and Wakanda Forever. I've heard whispers about we could get a Namor show. I don't know if I want that per se, but
I'm a little Wakanda'd out at this point. I feel like we're getting a lot of Wakanda content. Like at this point with like
I'm okay with doing a Namor movie in Talokan with like Atuma becoming a villain or something, but there's ways they could. Okay, here we go. This is a tough one. Gravik.
Really? Because Gravik, to me, I was just gonna straight up put it in awful and then move on.
I'd say wasted potential. I think Gravik's. I think he's good up until the finale. For me,
interesting. Okay, we could put him in wasted potential then. Thing is with, I'm gonna take your word for it because I didn't finish Secret Invasion. I was like 2 episodes in, and I don't blame
you.
So I'll take your word for it. We'll just put him in wasted potential. I can't say anything because that's the only Marvel show I straight up was not able to finish. I watched the first 2 episodes. Maria Hill died, and I was like, "Holy shit, this show is garbage." And I didn't want to finish it. I genuinely couldn't bring myself.
And I have to say, you miss nothing by not completing that show. The Marvels doesn't even address it. I
heard director Krennic died, and that's I was like, oh okay. And then
the only thing you need to know is that Talos is dead, which is fucking disappointing because I love Talos.
I like.
Oh God, here we go, Kang.
Let's just put him in wasted potential and we'll move on, dude.
Yeah,
that's just what Kang is as a character.
Okay. Okay, so MODOK, I don't care where you rank him. I'm gonna let you rank him wherever you want. I'm gonna say this: MODOK is fucking hilarious, and I love him. He is a shit villain. He is the funniest part of Quantumania for me by just his mere existence. I could not stop laughing.
You get to see his cheeks, so I'll put him points above garbage. One point for every cheek. So
Quantumania is a mixed fucking bag of a movie with the humor, but I love the bit where he's dying and he's like, "At least I died, an Avenger," and they're like, yeah, mm-hmm. And he does the CGI hand touching Paul Rudd's face. It's so stupid, but my name is Darren, and I'm not a dick.
I actually really like the joke about his name, where he's like, I'm a mechanized organism designed only for killing. I'm MODOK, and then Paul Rudd is like, doesn't that mean your name is Modafk?
Yeah,
because that's something I've always wondered about, because I was like, wait, because why would the F and 4 not count? Because it would. So I don't know. I just thought it was weird. I thought MODOK is just he's so stupid, but he's so funny.
He's like, so entertaining, dude. I can't get enough of him when he's on screen. He and the probability storm sequence with all the Paul Rudds, those are my favorite parts of Quantumania.
I like that scene actually. I don't love that movie, but I think
that I like that scene. I love that scene. That scene was the only part of the movie where I felt like I was watching the first Ant-Man again, and I got like wonder of like just like a giant army of Paul Rudds looking like an anthill or like ants coming together. I'm like, yes, more of this creativity, please. But we got to set up phase 5 for it to go nowhere.
Okay. We really need I wish we can get like another like good MCU villain, but that's never gonna happen. Oh wait, look! It's the High Evolutionary.
Okay, so this was the villain I was referring to who could rival Zemo as my favorite. I fucking love the High Evolutionary.
I'm gonna spoil things. The High Evolutionary is my favorite comic book movie villain of all time.
He is so fucking like perfectly pure evil and amazing. I love every second he's on screen. It's just love and hate at the same time because he's such a detestable character.
So every scene with him, he is just, oh my god. Because I didn't like know anything about that character. So
and I did, but this version is so different. It's like, man.
He's perfect. Just everything about him. The scene of them saying that he can't keep playing God and him yelling that there was no God, and that's like,
oh my gosh,
he stepped in is one of the single rawest lines any villain, and not just these movies, any comic book movie ever.
Right,
it lives up to.
Oh my god! And then like when the Orgo Corps people like start turning on him, and the music is building and rising, and she's like, disassemble all damaged sectors of the ship and reach. Just the fuck. It's that shook my. I'm convinced the bass from that like shook the fucking theater room. It was so good, dude.
And that final monologue to Rocket that he gives is so.
Followed by one of the best ass beatings in the MCU. Maybe
literally,
the best.
I remember I watched that with my mom because we watched the day it came out on digital. We didn't rent it. We bought that. We bought that movie.
Good.
We never buy digital movies, and we bought it. And I remember my mom usually isn't like a crier. She was like straight up sobbing the whole and that scene where Rocket came down and all the Guardians came, she just started crying, and it made me feel so good. And that scene afterward, because I remember in that scene before, she turned to me and she's like, Joey, what if Rocket finds like little baby raccoons? And then it pans to the little cage, and she was bawling. And when Rocket just grabbed all of them, she was just like, it was so wholesome. And then that scene afterward, because she was like, they're not going to go back for the other animals. And then when Rocket was like, Pete, the rest of them, and she saw the stampede, she just broke down.
That's why I fucking love that movie. That's why I fucking love that movie. Darkness of the sequel be damned. Everyone lives and we're fighting to our last fucking breath. And it was so I've watched that movie like 3 times. I still get tense. I still like get tense in my seat when Quill like falls through the ship and like everything is going down in flames and he has to get out of there. It's so fucking good.
That whole moment. I will never like that moment. I remember I watched SK's video on Mahler's breakdown.
Which I have not seen it. I have to watch that.
It's so garbage, dude. Well, SK does a good job breaking down.
Right? Yeah, of course. It's just.
I remember they said they hated that Peter. They're like, of all the reasons that Peter had to die, you made him go back for his fucking Zune. Why would he do that? And it's like, because Yondu gave it to him and he loves Yondu. They're like, you know what they should have done? He should have dropped it and he should have just let it go, because he moves on and he looks away. And I'm like, that sounds garbage. Why would Quill do that?
The same Peter Quill that in the same fucking movie, when Rocket was dying, shouted, I am not letting him go.
That's not the message of the movie. That's not the message of the movie. They misinterpreted
Fuck EFAP, man. Oh my god.
I remember when they got mad that Mantis erased Drax's memory, and Rags was like, I believe that our errors are what make us human, and erasing Drax's memory is like you killing a part of them. Like, Mantis literally murdered part of Drax, and we just watched it and we moved on. And I'm like, Rags, fuck off, dude. Fuck off.
At least their points can't get any worse. And then you just cut to Mauler. So would Drax be okay with like helping society? Like, just fuck.
They're so literal. I think they gave that like, dude, I legit can't get over his Ahsoka video. It's so garbage.
Anyway, oh god. So yeah, High Evolutionary, goated, probably the best Disney villain or MCU villain. We're about to crash hard with Dar-Ben. I'm gonna say
I
wasted.
don't remember what her motivation was.
I'm gonna say top of awful.
She wanted to save her planet, I think. I don't remember.
She wanted to steal resources from other planets to give them back to Hala after Carol broke everything. And she wants to make it personal by like taking it from planets that Carol calls home. Good idea in theory, but her acting, like the actress is trying so hard, and her emoting is a lot of fun, but the character is just so half-baked, and no, you failed.
I don't even want to focus on her. Do you just want to put her in awful?
Yeah, we can put her at the top of like under Whiplash. I'd say Whiplash at least has the car scene in like the race car fight.
Yeah,
but
some of the effects in that scene are really cool.
Okay, better. Paradox, really good villain. Paradox is so entertaining. I have not seen Succession. But I've heard great things about Matthew McFadden, and he was
you want to put him in really great?
Yeah, I think he's really great. He's so entertaining.
I originally didn't like him at first because I was very confused by his motivation, because I was like, what were you expecting the TVA to do after you pruned the timeline? Because it's like, did you not expect them to arrest you because you just violated their rules? But with him, it was like clearly him being like, I want to prove them wrong. Like, Eddie, he used it as it's the right thing to do, even if he knows he's going to get in trouble. So I like that.
Yeah.
And it helps that he's so funny.
He's so charismatic and entertaining, dude.
I like the moment where he's eating a sandwich and Wade is like, I'm sorry, is you old Yellering my universe making you package? And he's like, I'm eating my feelings.
And also one of the funniest parts of the movie, dude. Okay, so this annoys me. When I was watching the movie, yes, this is relevant. When I was watching the movie during the third act, I had to piss so badly, dude. Like I was like sitting in the theater, like, dude, had I not had that like in the back of my mind, I would have gut busted hard at the moment of like the anyway, there's nothing more that we can do to bring him back now.
He has baby girl.
Fuck! Like, that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen, and it's just so.
I love that moment so much.
And then the song on top of it just makes it even funnier. And I don't want the.
He's great.
Oh my god. That's probably my favorite Deadpool movie. I know technically there's stuff in the first two that's probably better from a filmmaking standpoint, especially two, since that was I think that was David Lynch, right? Directing the second one, I think.
David what?
I think let me check this real quick. Deadpool 2 director. I'm gonna look that
up. Not Lynch, David Leitch.
Okay, interesting. I got completely fucking confused. My bad. But yeah, so there's probably like stuff in the previous 2 movies that's better from some filmmaking stuff, but 3 is so damn fun and funny and great. Like, and I gotta give credit.
I would say 3 is probably my favorite.
I gotta give credit. During the climax of 3, I genuinely did not know if they were gonna kill Deadpool off for a minute when he had like the whole like grabbing the antimatter stuff in the chamber. And by the way, the music from that scene, the track is called "He's Not Gonna Make It." It's one of my new favorite MCU tracks. I love the way it builds up, and it's very bittersweet. And for a moment,
as the soundtrack for that movie is really good.
Yeah, and as that scene went on, I was like, wait, am I about to say goodbye to Wade? Because I genuinely did not know if this was just going to be like a one and done thing with Deadpool, bring him into the MCU and close out his trilogy. But then they have Logan come in for the choir version of fucking.
And his shirt just disintegrates.
Yeah. Dude,
I remember when my friend had an issue where it's like, why did just his shirt disintegrate? I love that. It's so ridiculous to me because it makes quite literally no sense that it would atomize only his shirt and none of his other clothes. I just think that's so funny.
Yeah, and like,
it's that part of like absurdist comedy that I'm completely okay with.
Right, and I love that. I just say the energy I had when I felt like that scene. There was a twinge in my back in the mind where I'm like, I feel like a 12-year-old again watching the Power Stone scene from Guardians of the Galaxy, like the Take My Hand scene.
Oh my God.
That's one of my favorite scenes in any movie, and I got the fact I got twinges of that, like just that shot. Like of the background singing, like the when you call my name, it's like, and you see Logan looking over after he says like I am the X-Man in the present. It's like I feel like this is like one of the comic book movie moments ever for me.
Yeah,
I fucking love this.
The movie gets a little too much hate. I
don't think so
it's
too.
Like, I don't think it's perfect, but I like it.
Yeah, it's not perfect, and I have my qualms with the director, but it's a great movie.
Literally, one of my only issues comes with the other villain, who I still like, and that's
I love Cassandra Nova too. I just wish she had more screen time.
My issue with Cassandra is that I like her as a presence, but my issue is that she's so closely tied to Charles Xavier as a character.
Who we don't see,
It's weird that Charles isn't in the movie. And they, to their credit, they do mention Charles a lot. Mm-hmm. I just find it weird that she has no...
Right. I did at the very least I loved the fucking line where Logan is like talking to her while Deadpool has the Juggernaut helmet and he says like And if the Xavier I knew you were out there, he'd rip a hole through the fucking universe to find you. I'm like, God, that hurts.
I just love Logan's arc in that movie, and I think that Emma Corrin is really charismatic in the role. I like that he's essentially not just a dark mirror of Charles in the sense that what could have happened to Charles if he was neglected, but Charles in terms of personality, because she's almost like Charles is very proper and he's very polite, and like Cassandra's almost like prissy. And I like the scene where she meets Wade and Logan for the first time, and she's like, "Oh, you two are cute." Like she gets like almost like giddy, and it's really sweet. And you forget that she's a psychopath, and then she rips off Johnny's skin.
Was so fucking horrifying.
And I like that scene with Pyro where she's about to like probe his mind, and he's like, "Ask next time," and she's like, "Okay." She's like, "Hands in pockets." Like it was
okay. Jeez.
Emma Corrin just does a good. I think it's mainly her performance that elevates Cassandra from like okay to good to me.
Yeah, I think it helps a lot, but she still works. So I'm gonna put her like she's in the same vein as Harrow and Crossbones. All right, and now we come to the final villain. So, spoilers for Agatha all along. We have
actually, I still haven't seen Agatha.
Okay,
I straight up don't know why I included Rita.
Are you interested? Do you want to know the twist about this character?
I genuinely don't know anything about it, and I do want to watch Agatha.
Okay, I won't spoil who this is. I will not spoil what they do with this character. What I'm going to say is put her in B or A tier, or like good or really great.
Well, I'm gonna take your word for it. I'll put her next to Paradise.
Because, dude, she is so. It's fucking what's her name? Oh shoot, what's the actress name? It's fucking Aubrey Plaza.
I love Aubrey Plaza.
She eats every scene she's in, and when you learn about what this character really is, she only gets better. So
I like Aubrey Plaza as an actress.
Yeah.
So
I was so sad to. I found out apparently her husband died. He was just found dead recently. That was so fucking out of nowhere.
Oh my god.
I'm trying. Let me make sure I got this right, because remember, I got David Lynch mixed up with the other guy.
David Lynch directed Deadpool 2.
Yeah. Jeff Ben, filmmaker and husband of Aubrey Plaza, dies at 47. It was a suicide. Jesus. Oh my god.
Poor guy, man.
That's awful. Condolences to her. Rest in peace. That's just fucking awful.
I love Aubrey Plaza, man. I feel bad. Yeah. I still really like that. I forgot what award ceremony it was, but I really like that clip of her with Jenna Ortega.
I might have. I don't know if I've seen that. Have I?
Where they're very stone faced, and they're Jenna is I don't know why they grouped us together, and she's a teenager, and it's because they're very not blunt, but they're very
one of them is Wednesday Addams.
And it's and not Julie and Scott Pilgrim, they're very
I've heard some people suggest Jenna Ortega as a fan cast for White Tiger, the Ava White Tiger, the girl one, and the MCU.
I kind of want that now.
I'm open to it. I don't know how to feel if she can do
only if it means I get to see Jenna Ortega beat people up.
Yeah, might as well, because I don't want to. I don't know enough about Jenna Ortega stuff. I haven't seen Wednesday. I've only seen her in maybe one or two things. But
what have you seen her in?
Fuck. Let me think. Shit. I gotta go to IMDb. That's how you know it's bad.
Okay.
IMDb. What you do instead of things? Here we go. Jenna Ortega. Okay, so yeah, Wednesday. I have not seen any of the Scream movies. By the way, I've got to get on Scream. I've got to get on those.
I would recommend you just binge the Scream movies.
Right. Okay. She was in Beetlejuice. She was in Big City Greens. That's cute. Elena of Avalor. Interesting. Okay. So she was on she was on a few Disney Channel things. It looks
that was what got her on the map. She was.
She was. I didn't know. Oh, she was in fucking Over the Garden Wall as additional voices.
Oh my god,
that's cool. Okay, so I've at least seen one thing with her in it. I just don't know what. Oh, that's right. She was in the MCU. She was the daughter of the vice president that was in on the scheme with Aldrich Killian.
Oh, damn it. No, we can't have her White Tiger. God damn
Oh, my God. Well, no. Remember, we can recast her. Remember, Gemma Chan was Minerva in Captain Marvel. Then she was Cersei in Eternals. So we can totally recast her. She was a kid back then. She's in I at least assume a college age adult. So she's fine. We can totally bring her in.
Jenna Ortega she's 22 now or 24?
I don't know. I try not to get
I'm looking
too
her
much
up.
into.
Oh my god, she's only 2 years older than me. Jesus Christ.
Oh shit.
I feel so old.
That was fucking weird for me too. I found out I think I'm Iman Vellani's just a few months older than me, and when I found that out, I was like, "Oh, that's
Iman
fucking
Vellani
weird."
22?
I think so. I think she's around my age range at least.
Jesus, she's also 22.
Yeah, which is amazing. But I love that. I'm in the same age as this person. It's a character I love, and then the actress is awesome. So it's that's cool, but it's still weird. It's how are we this close in age? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
So wait, Iron Man 3 came out
2013.
Oh my, Iron Man 3 is 12 years old.
Yeah. Time fucking flies, man.
No. All right, so it's 12 years old. 12 years old, so Jenna Ortega was 10 when that came out.
Okay, damn. That man from the vice president's daughter in Iron Man 3 to Wednesday Addams. Never. To be fair,
she did have a career before Iron Man 3. So
true.
She was in those Disney Channel stuff.
Yeah, that's true. So it's
that would make the character honestly, I'm okay with them just they can't do that because she's missing a leg in that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say they could just retcon it to be her, but honestly,
also White Tiger is like, I think maybe Puerto Rican or Mexican. So definitely
I think Jenna Ortega is biracial, so it's fine.
Right, that's what I was trying to think. So I just mean for like the character in the movie. Like unless the so but yeah.
Okay, her mother is Mexican and Puerto Rican. Yeah. And her dad is, I think her dad's white. I'm not entirely sure.
Oh yeah. In that case, maybe there's like some, because that's been a thing with some MCU castings. Like, have you heard of about like the colorism thing, where it feels like certain darker skin actors aren't casts, and like Hollywood will try to, sometimes they'll cheat a little, like they'll get an actor that is an ethnicity, but it's not quite the same skin tone, and it happens so much that it feels kind of like the biggest example recently was they cast Jon Stewart in the DCU. They had a casting for him. There were two casting options. They cast what was it? Okay, there were like two finalists basically for Jon Stewart. The guy who did get the casting was Aaron Pierce. And make no mistake, people were like, it's good, happy for Aaron Pierce, he got that. However, Aaron Pierce is a light-skinned black actor, which is fine. But in the case of Jon Stewart, his character, when he was being made in the comics, like the guy who made Jon Stewart, like it's a small change, but it's funny because back then black people in comics were colored a certain way with a specific like brown hue. And so when the guy was making Jon Stewart, he was like, why did you make him that shade? That's not typically what we make the black character. And he's like, well, yeah, I know, but it's typically darker than the shade we usually use. And I wanted it to be more realistic. So there's a bit of history with like the dark skin element to his character. So people were like, it feels a little like a bit of colorism going on to put a light skin actor in a character who is dark skinned traditionally. Me personally, like I get it from both angles. I'm happy for Aaron Pierce. I just don't know any of the dude's fucking roles, so I can't make an assessment of his acting chops. I just want like a good Green Lantern thing. If they really thought he embodied Jon Stewart, good for him. I think the people bringing up the dark skin element, they have a right to be upset. But I just, as long as he does a good job with the role, then so be it. Because I've seen cases where casting happens and I'm like, oh God, what's this going to end up like? And then it works out great. But yeah, back to the tier list. So yeah, we've completed the tier list.
Yeah, I like how you're like back to the tier list. And you're like, oh yeah, we're done.
Yeah, I love these. This is what I love about conversations I have with people. We can literally go from like fucking the issues of colorism in Hollywood to, so we made a tier list of like goofy goobers from the MCU, and we got to get back to that.
We made the Octopus Man. We got the Fireboy.
We got White Man with Black Sword from Thor. We got wait, oh my God, wait. Have you seen so I have to ask. This is important for this joke. How well versed are you in SpongeBob? How well versed are you with Okay. Very. Have you seen the episode Sun Bleached? Have you heard of that episode or seen it?
Is it the one where SpongeBob's like skin like fucking peels off and they have to make him like look like he's tanned?
Yes. The reason I bring that up is because Gore is sun bleached. Like there's being a white guy and then there's sun bleached and Gore looks like he is with the skin complex. It would have been funnier had I not explained the joke. If I knew you knew that SpongeBob episode and I was just like, Gore is sun bleached. There's this white guy.
That episode freaked me out.
That episode was weird, man. They really liked drawing like borderline gore. There's like one episode where like SpongeBob's face peels off and you see the musculature. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Remember the episode where like Squidward like not only stubs his toe, but like
oh God, yeah. Oh man,
it's like, so bad.
Why was it so well animated? Why was it so well animated and fucked up? That's what I want to know.
Directed by Rob. Directed by.
Oh God.
Because he was the guy at Nick. Right?
Yeah, fucking Dan Schneider. Jesus.
Oh, Dan. Christ. I said Rob Schneider.
Yes, no, different Bob.
They're all the same.
That's fucking Norm of the North, so it's two different evils.
Oh yeah, right. I forgot.
Oh man.
Well, Kevin, I don't even want to look at how long this stream has been because I'm genuinely horrified. We've been streaming for nearly 4 hours now.
Yeah. That's probably our longest stream maybe, but that was fun. I love doing this. This was so entertaining. I like that we were able to compromise on some of our stuff, but also have such like just straight to the point. We 100% agree with this takes. It kept things.
The thing is that when Andrew and I disagreed on our tier list, I cut out the scenes. I would just yell at him and basically peer pressure him. There's a lot of bullying that I cut out on that stream, so I'm happy that I wasn't able to showcase that here, and I was able to maintain my public image with you compared to when I was basically bullying the duck.
Yeah,
but it has been great having you.
Of course, yeah.
You guys made it to the end.
Yeah, I like doing the face cam stuff. It's frustrating because I'm still not used to it, so I'm leaning over a lot and my shoulders fucking ache because I'm hunched over a lot with my computer. But I do like doing these because they keep me. I'll be honest, when the face cam's turned off, it's easy to be like, okay, they're talking about something I don't understand. Let me check Instagram or Pinterest or whatever while I wait for my turn. Basically, I've done that a few times, and it's not trying to be mean, but it's easy to think like, oh yeah, nobody's watching me. But this is good because it keeps me engaged in the conversation and more aware of like my physical actions. I'm not like. I mean, I've had a few times where I scratch my ass, but that's it for it's at least it's not. And on that note, follow me. I am Elephant Power Productions on YouTube. I'm going to make more animated content for the channel this year. I just have to find the right motivation and stuff. I have a website, Elephant Power Art. You can check out some of my college stuff. Follow me on Instagram at American Elephant Insta. I'm then also American Elephant on Bluesky, DeviantArt, and Wattpad.
One of my friends, Kevin, one of my friends messaged me.
I'm listening.
I guess they're watching the stream right now.
Oh God.
And what did I tune into?
What did I tune into?
I have my phone right next to me and need it in case I needed to look up something.
Oh my God. And on that note, I'm American Elephant. Call me Kevin. Thank you all for stopping by the stream. Thank you for having me, Joe. This was hilarious and fun. I'd love to do another one of these or just talk about other stuff in the future. So if you have any ideas, hit me up. Or if you have any ideas in the comments for us, if you're watching this after the fact, let us know and have the capacity for a fucking 4-hour video. Oh God.
We can probably trying to think of what else we can rank. Oh
man, we could probably rank. We could rank like it'd be fun if we did like lightsabers, like how cool some lightsabers are. That could be.
They're all the
fun.
same to me, even as a big star.
Interesting.
Ahsoka's are the coolest, and then the rest are just.
Yeah, we could rank like. Yeah, I don't know. There's got to be something fun we could rank, or it doesn't even have to be. It doesn't even have to be Star Wars or Marvel or whatever. We could find another franchise to branch out with.
Actually, I do know something we could do. My friend Miles, they're the one I went to Rhode Island with them. They suggested that I do a tier list based on what Star Wars characters taste, what Star Wars droids taste the best, and. I don't get it, but I really love Miles as a person, and I want to respect their choices because this was based on when they were watching Skeleton Crew, and they texted me out of nowhere. It was like 11 at night, and they said SM33 looks like he tastes really good, and I was
wait a minute? Are we talking in like? Are we talking taste as in? There's no easy way for me to say this. Are we talking taste as in like if these characters were food or like eating them out? Like which one?
No, I think just like if you were to like just take like their shoulder and just like bite into it. That's all. Like that's what I imagined Miles was talking about.
Either one sounds reasonable. Either like he wants to taste the robot, or it's like a NSFW situation, like with the
outlaws.
nothing
sexual. That's not. Oh, I'm looking for Miles's exact word choice.
Yeah, I want to hear this shit now. I got to hear this before I go.
I feel really bad like calling Miles out, but I found it. They said he looks like he's crunchy if I bite into.
He does. No, he does though. He's got a point. I hear him out. He's right.
And they said make a video about which droids would be the most satisfying to bite into.
Honestly, I'm up to doing that. I think that'd be I join for that. That sounds funny.
Which is funny because technically I feel like SM-33 would probably be the worst one because he's
rusty as fuck and got a rat in his head.
He's been hiding under like a dirty spaceship for who knows how long. It could have been a century. He's been powered down. He has a rat living in his head. Like,
exactly.
That dude probably will give you tetanus if you even touch him.
Yeah, he'll give you fucking scurvy and tetanus at the same time. Like,
no, because I always like feel bad whenever the kids are around him and they're like touching him and stuff. Like when KD was like prodding at him, and I'm like, "Girl, put your gloves on. You're gonna get tetanus."
Right. Oh my gosh.
God forbid you get an open wound and you start like poking at your robot.
Like, if you want to do a stream of like taste, like what we think the robots would taste like or how good they would taste or whatever. That sounds funny.
Probably taste the best, honestly, because that dude's probably getting cleaned like 24/7. So
yeah, true. But yeah,
what the fuck is happening right now?
I don't know. I'm not gonna say I stopped paying attention, but I am definitely like, what the hell am I on right now? I took something before this.
I definitely took something before this, but I can't.
Yeah, and on that note, I actually haven't. I don't think I ate dinner, but I had a snack, so I'm not hungry. And on that note, I'm gonna go eat something. Thank you for having me.
I'm gonna go end the stream right now before we get taken.
Yeah. Goodbye.